What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Against All Odds podcast. I'm here with Brett. Brett, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm
Of course,
excited.
man. Yeah, this is your first real podcast experience, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah. The room alone is quite the setup. I'm super excited to be here. Yeah, it's my first. It's very legit. I don't know when you were bringing Maxie in and some of the guys. I wasn't quite sure.
No, it's legit. We got a good setup going. So we'll do some rapid fire questions like I usually do, and then we'll get into your story, and then I'll end with my final three questions. That's like going to be how the podcast looks.
Sweet.
But yeah, let's roll the intro and let's get started. Okay, Brett. So let's start off. Full name.
Brett Roland Levis.
Roland.
Yeah.
For the literally up until about a month ago, I thought your name was Levis.
That's what, dude. I don't think I've ever had or known somebody that had their last name mispronounced so many times when you would think. I guess in my head, it's easy for me. I assume that people think of Levi's jeans.
Yeah.
Because it's spelled the exact same way. It's just missing the apostrophe. But
That's what messes me up though, because I think without the apostrophe, it is Levis for me 100%.
But I get, what's crazy is I get the amount of times I've gotten Lewis, which there's no explanation for that. Especially I've got the announcers and I'm like, it's clearly a V. Come on, guys.
I probably have the least mispronounced name in the history of the universe. Matt Sheldon.
Yeah, it's very standard.
Standard.
Yeah. But Levi's, you don't think of Levi's jeans?
Yeah. I'm in my head, it was all Levis.
Does the apostrophe
It's the
add
apostrophe,
that
yeah.
much?
I think it's that
Wow.
much. So, whatever.
Yeah.
But what's your age?
31 now. Crazy.
That's old.
I know.
That's old.
I gotta be the oldest one. Oh no, how old's Ryan?
33.
Okay, so other than Ryan, I'm second oldest on the podcast.
Yeah. Elvis was on the podcast last year.
Right.
But he was 30, 31 at the time. But yeah.
Okay.
I
I got a question for you. Who's
Okay.
the oldest active player that you've had on the podcast?
This active player? It's probably going to be Ryan. I'm trying to think. At Tulsa, we didn't have anybody that was really 33 or up. Hartford, I stopped halfway because my mental health. I needed a break from after last year. Last year was tough.
Yeah.
Charleston I was the oldest guy at Charleston at 29 when I was there.
Who's the striker? Is it Romario Williams? How old is he? I thought he was.
He's old, but he wasn't there when I was there.
Oh, okay.
He was at New Mexico when I was in Hartford. But yeah, so Danny Barrera probably would have been. No, but Danny even last year was 32. Ryan's for sure. It's Ryan
Really?
Williams. Yeah,
Wow.
he's the oldest.
Good for him. Hey,
Yeah.
shout out to Ryan.
Shout out Ryan.
You're playing 33. You've been doing this for a little bit, and how many players have you had?
50, probably.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
It's funny too when you have guys like Ryan who have a 16-year professional career,
Right.
been playing pro since he's been 17, and then you have guys that don't. It's their first year,
Right.
And like, how do you talk about the same amount of stuff for those?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you've been playing for a long time. Where is your place of birth?
Place of birth is actually Regina, Saskatoon.
Regina.
Saskatchewan, excuse me.
Saskatchewan.
But I moved when I was 1.5 to Saskatoon, and that's where I grew up my whole life. So whenever people ask me,
Yeah.
Saskatoon, I don't remember when I was 1.
Yeah. I'm similar. I was born in Seattle, but I don't remember. I barely remember Seattle. I moved when I was 5 though,
Okay.
but to Portland. So I was to Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Position.
Depends left back now.
Yeah.
But I was a number 10 growing up.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I saw it today in
Did
training.
you?
You popped
Wow.
in the middle and you have
Yeah.
it. Favorite team to watch?
Wow. That's a good question. I mean, I support Barcelona. I've supported them for the past 15 years. They were always my favorite team. I still watch them, but I think City would be up there. I mean, they're just enjoyable to watch. I think the Copa America has been incredible. That's kind of changed my view on. I know I've heard a lot of people talking about how much structure has changed the game and how it's, maybe eliminated some of the excitement of watching.
Yeah.
I think Copa America,
It's back.
it's back. It's back for a short time, but holy is it back. Just watching. I mean, it looks so fast and it's nonstop. And then you compare that to the Euros and it's just a totally different game.
Yeah. It's super interesting. Okay, player that you like to compare yourself, like similar attributes, player comp for you. And don't be humble. Give me.
No, I'm thinking. I've gotten a lot of people lately give me the Luke Shaw, which I'll take that as a compliment. I think he's a good player. I think he's composed on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I liked watching Danny Alves was a right back, but I loved watching Danny Alves. I loved watching Marcelo growing up. Just dynamic players that were, maybe had more of an attacking mindset than a defending one. But I would say those three are all players that I really enjoy watching in that position.
Mm-hmm. Favorite vacation you've ever been on?
Oh, that's a good question. I went to, actually, was it 4 years ago? I went to Spain with like three of my best friends. One who actually is living here in Bloomfield Hills. We went to Spain and I got to watch Barcelona play Dortmund at the Camp Nou.
Oh, that's sick.
And that was a bucket list.
Was that just a friendly or what was the
Champions League?
That was
Champions League semifinal or quarterfinal.
Wow.
And it didn't disappoint. It was Messi scored, Suarez scored, Griezmann scored when they were on the team, and then Jadon Sancho came on for Dortmund and scored, and it was 3-1. Like the perfect the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
And then we went on to Portugal from there, and it was just, the game was such a bucket list for me, watching Messi play, and Spain and Portugal were incredible. The food, the scene, like it was, it was amazing.
Barcelona's sick city too.
Sweet.
I've seen a game at Camp Nou. I watched Barcelona play. I can't even remember, but they won I think it was 7-1.
Wow.
And it was Messi. Neymar was, I can't remember. It must have been 2000 something. I don't remember.
Wow.
But
you got to watch.
Neymar wasn't there. He was at PSG, but Messi.
So he would have just left.
Yeah. Messi was there. But yeah, it was awesome.
Barcelona, sick. I was telling Carm, because we didn't go together. It was more of a boys trip, but we'll get there. But I was telling her, it was one of my favorite cities just for the culture, the food. And if you're
just you missed out, babe.
Yeah, exactly. I told her everything. If you love footy, it's just the city you want to. That's
sick.
Everything there is like footy and about Barcelona. It's such a cool city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's do on an off day. What's your go-to activity?
Right now I'm doing a lot of schoolwork.
Yeah.
Especially on my off days, but. Now, since Carm and I moved into our new place, I think it's kind of like farmhouse living. It's pretty cool, but just going for walks when it's nice out.
Homesteading.
Yeah, homestead. That's a good way to put it.
I like it.
And we always love going to a coffee shop, getting a pastry, getting a nice coffee, just relaxing for a little bit. Because, normally you do the same thing. Wake up, make an espresso, make coffee, and then head to training right away.
Yeah.
And then you're back later on, and Carm works during the day. So anytime we get an off day, a couple hours, it's always nice to hit up a cafe.
Any hidden talents?
That's a good question.
Yeah. You got any you want to share?
None that I want to share.
Okay.
But that's a tough question. That's always one of the questions I feel like one of the quick fire questions, but none that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last question. Let's do last meal. If you had your one meal before you're about to get executed on death row.
Wow. Executed.
What would be your ultimate dream meal?
It would for sure be between a brick oven pizza or a good pasta dish.
Pasta.
One of those two. Like a carbonara.
Okay.
One of those for sure.
Italian. You're going Italian.
Yeah, I think so.
You have any drink with it?
I think Italian, you got to go wine.
Yeah.
I don't know if you asked me drink alone, I'd probably pick something different. I'd probably go maybe an old fashioned.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, go out like a man,
Go out like a man. Yeah, I think that's smart.
Yeah.
You hate it, but I'm going to go out like a man.
Yeah, you sip it and wins, but...
Okay, and then dessert? You have any dessert with that?
Oh, I'm a big fan of red velvet with cream cheese or carrot cake. Anything with cream cheese, or just an old fashioned, a chocolate chip cookie warmed up with a little vanilla ice cream on the side is.
I'm very similar with that.
Yeah, that hits home.
Okay, awesome. Well, that was the rapid fire questions.
Perfect.
Get to know Brett Levi's.
There you go.
Now we'll hop into your story. So you said you were born in Regina, Saskatchewan. Saskatoon.
Close. Saskatchewan.
I can't say it. So Saskatoon is the city then.
Saskatoon is the city, correct?
Saskatchewan
is the province. Right, which is equivalent to states.
Yeah.
We just have far less.
Saskatoon,
than 50.
Saskatchewan. Whoever named that's
Crazy, I know.
terrible.
It means Saskatchewan means land of living skies.
Wow.
Kind of cool.
That's cool. What does Saskatoon mean?
Couldn't tell you. It's got to be something similar.
Something skies.
Yeah, it's got to be something similar.
And then, so what was life like in Regina or Saskatoon, like growing up? I mean, a lot of snow, cold winters.
Yes. I
But
think
what did you have siblings? What was your family like? All that stuff.
I have one sister, and then dad lives in Ontario now. My mom passed away when I was 15. She had breast cancer, which was tough, but it's something that you get through. And I definitely think that like what I've learned from her has definitely helped me get to where I'm at today, which is super cool now, kind of being able to look back and as you age, you appreciate things a little bit more. So that part was pretty cool. But yeah, growing up was unique. I mean, we have 4 months of summer and like 8 months of winter, and the winter gets cold, really cold. I mean, we work in Celsius, so I don't know if you're going to be able to do
I'm good at Celsius. I'll try to
real-time conversion, but like we've had minus, with the wind chill, we've had minus 40s Celsius, which like they advise you to not even step outside, which is crazy.
That's terrible.
But our summers it's like polar opposites. Like our summers kind of like the prairie heat. Like we'll get 30, 35 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know, it's 35, 90s. Yeah, so like really 90s, warm.
So did you have, on the transition period, did you have any good like 70-degree days, nice, comfortable days?
Yeah, you get some like spring, definitely some spring days, but for the most part, like pretty extremes. Like it's either,
when you're done, do you want to go back to, like, where do you want to live? Probably in Canada, because both you and your wife are Canadian.
Yeah, definitely Canada.
Vancouver.
There's a handful of cities. Vancouver, just the experience that we had there, we would love to. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've seen any, like every time I see a list of top 10
Toronto,
most expensive cities in
Vancouver.
the world, they're like top 5.
Yeah.
But the lifestyle is super cool there. There's a handful of cities that would be on our list. But it's also, again, as you get older, it's, now that we're having a baby, it's kind of like, what do we want to be really close to family and friends who, like, most of our family and friends are in that area or within a couple hour drive, versus going to the West Coast and then it turns into a flight.
Yeah.
But you're by the mountains, you're by the lakes, and maybe the outdoor lifestyle is a lot better. So it's just kind of weighing the pros and cons, but definitely Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't live in Vancouver. I stayed in Vancouver. Actually, we'll talk about it too, but we were in the same preseason camp in Vancouver Whitecaps too.
Why don't I remember that?
Because I was there for 3 days.
Is that bad? Do you remember me though?
Honestly, I don't.
See, I don't know if that,
Because I was so worried.
Are you sure I was there though?
I don't know if you were there.
Okay.
I remember.
What year was it?
It was 2015.
I was there.
2015, yeah. 2000.
I was
there. It was the preseason 2015. The very first day, I was there day 1, 2, 3, and then I got cut.
Was it like, did they bring in like a whole bunch
35
of
players?
Okay. Yeah. I remember that. I don't even know if, I might not have been there yet. Okay. Like, I don't know if it was, I could be wrong. I think they might have separated it as like trialists came in, and then like the rest of the players that were already signed maybe came in. I remember there was
1 or 2 guys that I know were drafted by Vancouver. They were there.
Okay.
And
was it?
Who was the other guy?
Jovan?
What was his last name?
Jovan was drafted from the only school in Canada that plays NCAA, but they play in Division 2. It was Simon Fraser.
Oh yeah.
I think. Yeah. But I think Jovan, he was the one drafted in the second round.
What was his name? What was his last name?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. Like Jovan.
It was like
Blastovich
or something like that.
Something along the lines.
Yeah. He was there. Okay. I know for a fact he was there.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely remember him.
We might have been there together for those 3 days, and then it went from, I remember, because after that third day at Vancouver,
where were we training at that, like rink.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
We had to walk past the ice hockey rink to the field outside.
That's where
and I was out there, and then
was.
the coaches were like, "Okay, guys, it's like day 3, and they're like, good stuff today. Go back in the locker room. We'll have a list up in the locker room of guys to come back tomorrow."
Wow.
And so we had 35 guys or 30 guys or something. So I'm thinking, okay, they'll probably cut it down to 25. So I was thinking they'll probably cut 5 to 10 guys and get back in there. And the list was, I remember walking in and seeing the short list.
Really?
Like, I'm done.
You remember how many names it was?
I think it was like 14, 15 names.
Wow.
So they cut 20 guys.
Which is harsh because like 3 days, like how much, and I'm sure like at that point it's so chaotic.
Yeah,
Like you don't know who you're playing
Well,
with.
I only remember like 4 people, like names.
You don't know who you're playing with. Everybody's just trying to make it.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty cutthroat. And,
But yeah, it was crazy. It's funny though.
and that's what. So Steve Meadley would have been there. He was like one of the assistants.
that coach was Alan
Koch. Yeah, Alan Koch was the head coach.
Alan Koch.
See, he was funny. He was like the big Englishman, bald head.
Yeah.
He would have been there. I can't remember who the.
I couldn't tell you the other
No.
people. I just remember Alan Koch, and I remember the big guy, and then I remember a few names in the locker room.
Right.
That's it.
Marty McDermott. He was the equipment guy. Legendary. Yeah. Legendary.
It's like such a small world. It's so funny.
It is kind of crazy that you cross paths like that.
Yeah. But so growing up, Saskatoon, did you play any other sports besides soccer, or is it just all?
Not
Cody?
competitively.
Uh-huh.
I played like everybody plays hockey, but like more like ODR, the outdoor rink.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go on the. I mean,
ODR.
Yeah, the ODR.
So Canadian.
Yeah.
ODR.
Yeah, you have. I mean, like I said, you get 5 to 6 months of winter.
Yeah.
So a lot of snow, a lot of ice. Played like a little bit of baseball. I think like every kid. I was in gymnastics when I was really young. Kind of dabbled in everything, but for whatever reason, soccer stuck, which is interesting because everybody there plays hockey, football, some basketball. But yeah, footy is very rare.
Yeah. Did you play in like the big bubble domes usually for like in the winters, or did you just?
We
not
actually
play?
we had like an indoor soccer center.
Okay.
Which was a 11v11 turf field, but they would segment it into 4 different sections.
Yeah, I've seen.
And then we also had like an indoor tile, so like kind of futsal style,
Yeah,
boarded.
Yeah.
That's
where you get the soul roll from. That's where the soul roll developed.
Literally, that's where the soul roll came from.
That's what I wish I would have done more as a kid. Is more futsal. Like I did it for probably 2-3 years because Portland futsal opened up.
Wow.
And I was there like every Wednesday night, open nights. I signed up for the league in the winter, but like I just was viewing it as like, oh, I'll just do this until the fields are not soaked in water and rain. But I wish I'd done that way more.
Yeah.
The soul roll, man, tight spaces. It's so good.
We had, this was actually, so the soccer center that had turf that I was just speaking about wasn't open. God, I don't even remember how old I would have been, but I would have been playing kind of competitive U8 to U12 without like in the winter, it was only the tile. And to this day, I've told people like, I think that has helped so much with my development because it was always so tight, so technical. And it's just, you just really learn how to manipulate the ball in tight spaces. And just for like kids' development, it's not so big, like a big 11v11.
You're just running all over the place.
It can be a bit chaotic, but that was like so many fond memories of playing that kind of style.
Yeah, it's like the Brazilians, like just going to the futsal courts all the time, just playing. I remember like running at like my first years or second years as a pro, running like thinking, oh, this little tiny Brazilian guy was stuck in the corner. I'm just gonna sprint at him, tackle him. I flew at him and did a little soul roll. He rolls it and then rolls it back through your legs, like what Z did to Devin today. And I just was like, and I literally turned, closed the legs, tripped over. I'm like, all right, this is different. He did not panic at all when I ran at him.
Yeah, it's a different style, but
yeah. And then so like what age did you start to be like, I'm like, footy's going to be my sport. I'm going to devote my time and I want to be a pro at it. Did that happen early on or?
That's not early on. Only because, I mean, when you're still that young, I guess it didn't really cross. It was like, I just loved playing. Like that's all I did.
What'd you want to be when you were that age then? Like as a grown up?
I think like your standard, maybe a police officer, firefighter. Like it was still that kind of, in my head, I wanted to be a soccer player. Like that's all I ever wanted to do. I'm sure most kids that are still playing or us at this age, like we were probably all the same in terms of at recess in the summer, like always just getting together with friends and playing pickup soccer. But I think it was honestly more so other people, my parents a little bit, but I would say from my experience, like they were quite level-headed. Like they never, it was never like, oh, you're so good at soccer, our sweet boy type thing. But it was more so other coaches like pretty early trying to, hey, can we get him to play with the U12s when he was, eight, whatever age it was? Can we get him, moved up here? Can we get him, going over to this camp and doing this stuff?
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of in that phase where other people I kind of noticed were like trying to push me on. But realistically, this is going to sound until the USL, like when I signed with Vancouver, I kind of skipped some university in there, was attainable because I was like, it was still kind of in my head, an academy. I went through, I played a year with PDL with Vancouver and then, did well and then moved up to their USL. But even when I was in the USL, like MLS was like, there's no way. Like in my head, really, it just was like, I mean, first off, nobody from Saskatoon had ever gone pro. Mm-hmm. So even when I was growing up, even university, like I don't want to sound like I had some family members who were like, you should probably stay in school. Like we know you're good, you're a good player, but like,
how many people are from Saskatoon?
I think
I have no idea what to
like
picture.
Anywhere between 300 and 350,000, I would say.
Okay, so it's big.
It's
a decent sized city.
Decent sized city.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you're like building your own log cabins out there. Like
no. A lot of lake houses, a lot of cabins. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but no, just university was like the biggest thing that we had. Yeah, which is our local university, which plays in, Can West, which is like a segment of Canada soccer. But yeah, it was never really until I, after the USL again. I probably skipped so much in between. We can always go back, but until I got that call, like saying that you were going to get signed to the first team or the coach called me, it was like, I just remember being like, this isn't real.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure even with any professional contract, a player thinks that, but it growing, especially in USL, and it seemed not to lower the expectation, but it seemed like any college kid that I played with, it was almost like an expectation, like, oh yeah, like I came to the draft, like I'm going to get drafted and go to MLS. Mm-hmm. Whereas like for me as a Canadian, like who wasn't eligible for the draft, who didn't have, like my only option was the University of Saskatchewan. I didn't have any offers to go because nobody looks there.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, yeah, I was like, well, that's a sweet mindset to have. But I was like, if I make it, it's like, I was just like not expecting it at all.
Yeah.
That's I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, no, it does. It does for sure. Because it is kind of like it's, you wanted it, but it's almost like for a lot of kids, they have to see the path, like somebody like them in their situation do it. Exactly. And then it makes it real that, oh, I can attain that too. Because being the first one is rare.
Yeah.
It's not common that you're the first one to sign an MLS deal from your city or your town.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. So it is like, that's why the academy systems, it's been so good now to see like Detroit City Academy and all this stuff like building up. Because then all these kids can be like, especially kids that are getting to train with the first team.
Yeah.
Even these kids that train with us or played with us in the Pumas game.
100%.
They see it like, oh, this is the pathway. I can make it.
Yeah.
And then all their peers are saying, oh, if I work hard and do well, it's attainable. So it's like, it's super important,
Yeah. And I think that, again, speaking of like some of the college players that I played, I think it was more so that it wasn't like, oh, I'm so good, like I'm going to get drafted. It was just like, they had a pathway of like, I have had players that I played with in college that, a year or two ahead of me that ended up getting drafted, did well, got signed to an MLS contract.
Yeah.
Whereas again, maybe it's just situational where we're not eligible for the draft as Canadians, and like where I come from, again, kind of the middle of Canada, not known for footy, like people don't really look there. So it was, just a lot more rare that I was able to get that opportunity. And even, when I did, it was still like, it's probably still a long shot. But it happened.
That's sick.
Yeah.
What from like, so did you just play for local club teams or academies in Saskatoon up until you went to college? Like, did you have any, like, was there regional teams or Canadian national team?
Provincial, okay. Which would be like state teams.
Yeah.
So we would play other provincial, like, we'd play BC and Ontario and Quebec and these other teams. But again, like, so funny. We would go to these provincial tournaments and we would get slapped. Like, you're playing BC has a population of, I don't even know, 2, 3, 4 million. We have a population of
2, 3, 4
Saskatoon. Like Saskatoon and Regina combined is like the entire province of Saskatchewan. So whatever our like a small percentage of what, and we would like, I'm talking, we'd play BC it'd be 8-10-0 every game. You get absolutely pumped. But there was like still times where I would have maybe some scouts or some people talk to me. I had a small sniff at like Vancouver when I was real young, like 14, them wanting to bring me over in their academy, but then I don't even know exactly what happened. It just kind of like fizzled out. But in terms of that, like I was until I was 21, I was playing in Saskatoon. So I was playing like, because university, university. I played my first year university and then didn't play like PDL, didn't play in the summer team. My second year, it was basically my coach like had to go out on a limb and kind of vouch for me to play for Victoria Highlanders, which is a PDL team on the West Coast. Yeah. And was like, basically had the, I don't know, the coach there was like, we're looking for a kind of a number 10 winger. He was like, my coach, like who I'd been with, for a long time. Basically had to vouch for me and be like, trust me, like this kid has quality. Like you need to, sign him, whatever. And at that time, PDL, like we were getting food vouchers. Like you weren't getting any money, but it was a good summer league to play in. And I would say that for sure was like my breakout, like in that PDL year. I don't know, I had 10 or 12 goals, 10 or 12 assists, kind of a good combo. I played really well. And that's where we made it to the semifinals against Thunder Bay. But that's where we played against Sounders too, was in that Portland too. So a lot more eyes on you. And kind of from there is when I got scouted to Vancouver, because we played Vancouver, Vancouver 2 or whatever. And I did well against them. And that was kind of like my breakthrough. So then the following year they signed me to
because the first year of Vancouver Whitecaps 2 in the USL was 2015. What was maybe earlier?
Yes. 2015 was the first year.
Okay. Yeah.
But they had a PDL team before that I played with like for a month or something, like a brief stint. They just brought me in. And then after that, I was on like a mini trial with the first team. And then the following year in 2015, they brought me in. Like that was the first year USL that they brought me in.
That's funny. It's good timing.
Yeah.
Good timing.
I know.
Don't you look back at some of those things and be like, damn, if it was 1 year earlier, 1 year later, if I didn't know this coach or this coach didn't vouch for me with the Highlanders or whatever, like things would have been completely different.
Completely.
I think about that all the time. Yeah. Like there's people say, oh, there's no such thing as luck or whatever, but there's a lot of stuff that has to go the right way for you to go and become a pro.
Yeah.
Like I think about that all the time with my career.
I'm a bit like from what I've seen, like I think luck is a big factor. I think not taking away, like you have to be talented. Yeah. You have to work hard. You have to have the work ethic, but there's so many scenarios where you have to get lucky. You can't get injured in this situation, or another player gets brought in your position, or there's just so many. Again, like you've seen, a certain coach is at a certain game that sees you and is like, let me give this kid a chance. Because there was, even growing up, again going back there was a handful of kids that even playing for the university that were like they're good. You know what I mean? Like they're good, but it was either they didn't get seen or it was unrealistic because nobody's done it. They didn't know what the next step was. Like, oh, do I just on a whim drop out and, try to go play for a PDL team on the East or West Coast and maybe get seen to go pro?
And even then you're like, how do I do that? Do I just have to go over there and buy my own ticket and go on an open tryout?
Exactly. Like we didn't have agents.
Yeah.
They literally have no idea where our city is. Like I have to spell out where I'm from every time I tell someone, they have we don't have agents.
Were your games in college filmed at all? Like,
I think, they were filmed, but again, it was like a small media, like local, like local as in Canada, like media provider that was all run through kind of the university system. But I guess you would, like, there were some ways to get seen even in university, because even we would play against UBC, so University of British Columbia, and there would be the odd Vancouver Whitecaps, come out for whether it was the PDL or the USL. So there'd be like the odd time you get seen, but for the most part, it was pretty rare.
That's crazy. When did you start getting interest from the University of Saskatoon?
I mean, again, it's not a big city. So like when I was coming through high school, I was playing on the provincial team. Me and still one of my close friends, we were like the co-captains. Like we were, just doing really well, playing with club teams and stuff. So it was kind of like the natural next step to go to the university. And it was like, the university had maybe 4 or 5 players from out of town. Like it's not it's not like college in the US.
It's almost like a kind of glorified club team, like a local club team from
to
the
a certain extent. Yeah. Like everybody kind of knew who was going there. Like the recruiting system was, I mean, it was good, but if I had a decent offer from, maybe somewhere in the States, like I would have had to make a decision, but it was like, no, you're going here. Like this is.
So did you not have any other interest from any other schools?
No,
none.
Because I didn't have any eyes on me, and
Yeah,
it wasn't.
yeah.
I guess maybe I could have done more. Like maybe I could have had my dad videotape games and try to send clips down. Like I've heard that's not uncommon. Like send videos of highlights type things to universities or colleges in the States. But yeah, my option was to play for the University of Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Well, that's what I did. I had my dad, literally that. I had my dad film me on the sideline because I knew I was like, bro, I need all the help I can get.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Because Portland was similar in the fact of like, there's not a single academy when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Not one. We trained twice a week with the club team. I was on one of the best club teams in state, but even then, like from the team, you'd have like 1 or 2 kids go and play D1,
Right.
maybe. And then those kids were like the lights out best player, like just crazy.
Yeah.
And like Eric Hurtado, who played. Did you play with Eric Hurtado?
Yeah.
So he was from Portland. I played against him in high school.
Yeah.
And
Eric's
this was
my
guy when I
boy.
played him in high school.
Oh,
he
God.
was 3-4 years
I can
older.
imagine.
Bro, he was this. I don't want to say this 100%, but it felt like he was the same speed when he was 17, 18 that he was at his prime. He came at me. He probably doesn't remember this because he just does this to every single player. And I was playing like left mid, and he came flying at me, and he hit me with a triple step over.
Yeah.
I was so far back on my heels, I couldn't move. And he took the ball past me, and he just goes, vroom, and I literally was like, I am not anywhere close to being this guy's level. And I think he scored a hat trick on us that game.
He is probably still to this day, with maybe a couple other players, like one of the most powerful players I've ever seen. Driving with a ball or just like sheer strength.
Bro,
was incredible. Yeah, I was with Eric for about 2 years in Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah, really good guy. But I remember seeing, I don't know where, but I remember literally seeing clips of him playing even in college.
Yeah.
And it was like some of the clips would be
where did he go? Oregon State? Do you remember?
somewhere on the West Coast. I
Might
don't
have
know.
been up in Washington. I don't remember.
And it might have been like state cup stuff too, but I remember seeing clips being like, it looks like he was playing with little kids.
Yeah, and I was that little kid.
He would go pick the ball up like as if he was Messi, like lower down, and he would just turn and just dribble through like half the team.
He would be playing forward or right winger.
Yeah,
and I told you I was left mid, and he dropped back to get the ball from his right back, and then he turned and went at me, and then at another guy. He had a hat trick that game. I'm like, this guy's I cannot compete with this guy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, I was probably in one of those highlight tapes. I was probably in a video.
That was you. The dribbles dev over shimmy.
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. Yeah, so like, but that was him. So it's like you have players like that. Another guy like Rubio Rubin, who was like U.S. men's national team, played over at like FC Utrecht and like you know
big clubs,
huge clubs. But like it was that, or it was nothing. You know, maybe you get a sniff at some locals like D2, but it was the same thing. So like, it was like for me, I was like, fuck, yeah, I'm not like that. Like I need to send out videos, do something, and I would just have my dad film me and then send them out. And at that time, not many kids were even filming their games. Like we had to use the old tape, camcorders,
classic.
And that's where I started learning video editing. And then I had like I was crazy. All these schools were starting to be like, oh yeah, I'm interested. Come to a camp. And then like couldn't afford to go to that many, but I went to a few.
Right.
And then once I was there and they saw my highlight video and then saw me in person, they're like, yeah, like you got good grades, all this stuff. Like we can talk. And I'm like, oh wow, it's working. I did not expect this to work.
That's awesome though to hear that. I mean, again, the fact that you went out kind of on a whim, like that's good for you.
I was like, I don't know if this coach is gonna laugh at this email or what, but we'll just go for it and see what happens. All right, so then you got interest from Saskatoon. That's pretty much your only option.
Yep.
In your mind, you were thinking, I'm gonna go here, do 4 years of school, and then I'll enter the workforce after that. Maybe were you thinking at all of getting drafted, or sorry, you weren't eligible for the draft.
No.
Were you thinking all about playing pro? Did you know what USL was? Like, what were your thoughts?
I knew of the USL, and obviously I knew of the MLS.
Yeah.
But honestly, I was still so obsessed with soccer that was my best option to play the highest level of soccer at the time. School was I knew my whole family was like school. You have to go to school, which again, now looking back, it was a good decision. You know, I ended up we spoke about earlier, I ended up finishing my degree, which was awesome. I'm the first one in my immediate family to get a degree, which is pretty cool. But at the time, it was like I took the minimum courses available and had basically the minimum average I needed to maintain a scholarship that already didn't even cover my like all my expenses.
Yeah.
And it was a full ride. That wasn't a full ride, but it was just, again, the best soccer that was available.
Yeah.
But those 4, we do 5 years in Canada. I don't know if that's because the US is 4, right?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
I was on track for 5. I needed 5.5.
Yeah, I would have needed maximum as well. But those 4 years were amazing. We won a Can West title, which was just an achievement that a team from Saskatoon playing against teams that have populations 10 times the size was pretty rare. It was the first one in the school's history. Might be the only one that will ever win. Hopefully not, but also just playing with some friends, like friends I grew up with, good players, and I think that's pretty rare. You make friends at the professional level, teammates and stuff, but to be able to grow up with players that you played with, since you were 10, 12 years old, and then to win something with them 10 years later, I thought it was super cool. And I'm still close with a lot of those friends. So that's definitely a memory that I'll have for a long time.
That's sick. What year did you win the title?
2014.
2014. And were you like, 5 years, do you do freshman, sophomore, junior, senior? Just do year 1, or what do you call it?
Yeah. Just
year 1.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It was like your senior, what year of school was it for you?
So it would have been my 4th year.
4th year, okay.
And then it was that year, like we won that, and then I dropped out and went to Vancouver. So it was a 2015 year, beginning of 2015. So January when I went and signed USL.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine. It's very similar for me too. Like I didn't say that I could be a pro soccer. I always wanted to, but it wasn't realistic for me. And actually, like, oh my God, I can do this. Until same thing. I was about 20, 21,
right?
And where I had a really good season at the Division 1 level. I was playing striker at the time.
Wow,
just banging in goals, man.
I love to hear it.
Just near post run every time. Off the shin, off whatever.
However it goes in.
And I had a goal off my elbow, off my shin, off my everything. I didn't score outside the 6. So that, and then scouts were looking at me and they're like, you're probably not a true striker. You work really hard, so maybe like a fullback. I'm like, okay. But like same thing, I was like, I had one good year, and then had a good year at PDL because I played for the San Jose Earthquakes U23s. Okay. And then that was at that point where I'm like, holy shit, like the next level is USL. That's pro.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's when it became real, when I was literally doing well, scoring goals, and like at the highest level of amateur or semi-pro you could get.
Right.
Was when I was like, whoa, this could actually happen. Yeah.
I guess I had a stint of it. So in 2014, before that, the university season started, after the PDL season, I went on trial. So after the Highlanders, I went on trial it was like a 14-day trial with the Whitecaps with their first team, under, I think it was coach named Martin Rene. Carl Robinson was the assistant coach. I'll tie that back into the story later, but he was the assistant coach at the time. But so I went on a 14-day trial, and like in my head, I thought I did really well.
Yeah.
And then I came. That part was cool for me because then, like, I mean, our local newspaper was like, kid from Saskatoon, he's going on trial with the Vancouver Whitecaps in the MLS. So like when I came home, even though like it was a 14-day trial, nothing came from it. I mean, they agreed to sign me to their USL, but when I came home, like that university season was, I mean, it was cool because everybody's like, dude, you just got to play with like players that you see on TV and stuff, and an MLS team. But even there, I kind of was like, oh, well, that was my shot. Like I had a 14-day trial. Like, they would have signed me if I was good enough. So I was like, yeah, I'll go USL. But like in a sense, I was like, maybe that's my ceiling. Like, what I mean? They saw me. Why wouldn't they? So when I came back, did that, and then went back the next year USL, and that's kind of when I got also transitioned to a left back.
Yeah. So you transitioned and learned the position at the pro level.
Yeah. So my whole, like, not whole, about quarter way through of 2016. So my second year, I re-signed my second year for the USL. And that year there was like a handful, 5 of us from the USL that went to preseason with the first team. And at the time, Jordan Harvey was the starting left back, and I think Sam Adekubi, like it was kind of those two in rotation. Jordan was getting a bit older. Sam was kind of coming in. Sam was coming back from an injury. Jordan got injured first day of preseason, and like the third day in, we're playing Seattle Sounders and just like a friendly, and they don't have a left back. And like I was a naturally left-footed player, and they're like, let's put him left back.
Yeah.
So they put me left back, and I obviously did well. Like I, was still doing stuff. Like I kind of thought I was a winger. Like I was driving central with the ball, combining. Definitely had to learn a lot of things positionally, defensively and stuff. But I did well. And the coach, like after that game, literally as I was walking off the field, came up to me and he was like, "You're gonna be a left back." And then he told Alan Koch, he was like, "You're playing him left back for the rest of the year."
Wow.
For USL.
Damn. How many games did you play at like the 10 winger position that first year? Then like
every game.
Yeah.
Like my first year, it was either left wing, number 10, or right wing coming in on my left. But I was always, even university, I was always an attack. So until I was 21 was the first time I played left back.
Yeah, that's bro.
And then I played half a year at USL, or 3/4 of a year, and then we were playing. I obviously remember the day, remember everything, but we were playing Colorado Springs away, and I scored a really good goal. It was like coming down the left side, played like kind of a whip ball into the striker, followed my run. He bounced it to me, played him like we did another 1-2 kind of combined in the box, got it back, went around the keeper, slotted it in, like a good goal, whatever. And we ended up winning that game 2-1. I had a good game, and then I remember after the game, you have your shower, have your bite to eat, and then I was walking to the bus, and Alan Koch, obviously at the time, called me over, and he was on the phone. He was like, "The phone call for you." And I obviously, again, at that time, I promise you, I'm not just saying this, it was never a thought in my mind. I was just like enjoying playing.
Yeah.
You're with friends, whatever. And he didn't even tell me who it was. He just was like, "Here, you have a phone call." And I was like, "This is odd. Like, why would your coach be handing you a phone like that he's talking to somebody?" And it was Carl Robinson, who was then the appointed head coach of the first team. And he was like, "Hey, just watch your game." I honestly don't even really remember what he said. All I remember him saying was like, we're going to sign you to a first team contract. Like not this second, but like, we're working out the logistics, but I want you to know that like we're going to sign you to a first team contract. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you can imagine. I literally was like, all I wanted to do was tell all my friends back home.
Yeah.
Like, everybody in Saskatoon and be like, "Dude, it happened." Like, like just, yeah, kids playing back home or whoever, Carm, obviously, just everybody being like, "This is the coolest thing ever."
Yeah. How long from that phone call did it take until you actually put pen to paper?
Oh, that's a good. It was like longer than I wanted.
Yeah, it's always longer than you expect.
It was like at least a month.
Yeah.
And I was playing like there was a couple times in there where I was like,
"It's done. It's not happening."
Well, I was like, "This is weird. Like, why would you call me and tell me that?"
Yeah.
And then like I was playing. They would sign me to a 3-day contract, and I was playing Champions League with them in Trinidad and Tobago and stuff against these not random teams, but the CONCACAF Champions League. You go to a lot of these Central South American countries, and it was like, I don't know, a month later I was walking, it was after one of those games, I was walking back on the bus, and he like kind of called me to the side, and I was like, even then I was like, uh-oh, like I played it, I thought I played well, nothing to worry about kind of thing, but it had gone on for that long that I was thinking like, oh, maybe he's going to tell me like, oh, financially we can't do it right now, or something along the lines of that. But he just like reassured me. He was like, "Yeah, good game. Keep playing. Like we're going to get that contract done soon." And then, so I would say it was about a month to a month and a half, which was way long. Like in my head, like it was.
I think it's going to happen fast.
Especially when you tell people, dude.
You already told people that?
He like the coach was like, "Listen, like call your family, call your."
Oh, he said,
yeah.
Okay.
So like,
yeah.
I mean, that would have been crazy. Like I told a handful of people, but I didn't make it. Everybody I told I was close to, I didn't make it public.
You're not tweeting about it.
No. But what helped me was like the day before I was supposed to sign, or like that I thought I was, it got leaked, and it was like on Twitter. So I had other people from back home who I hadn't told kind of reaching out, being like, "Dude, is this real?" Like, well, and then some people in Vancouver on Twitter and stuff. So then they probably expedited. They're
like, "Oh, we gotta get this done." Yeah, it always. I remember even the beginning, like where a coach would be like, "Oh yeah, I think we're showing interest, or we want to sign
classic,
you,"
yeah.
and like, "Okay, let's go." I'm thinking, "Oh, it should take by the weekend I'll get the contract." And then in off season, especially in off season, coaches and stuff, they delay just to see if anything else is out there. And just the mind games that you play with yourself, trying to like, am I done? Am I never going to get this? Is this going to work out? Yeah.
Yeah. You have like one, I remember having like one bad game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's it. Yeah. They watched that whole game. They're like, you know what? He's not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah. And then
forget about all the good games that he had.
One bad touch, bro. I'd have one bad touch. I'm like, that's it. That's it. I'm done.
That's it for me.
Because my first fully professional contract I signed, I went over to Germany after Vancouver, I went and trained with Sacramento for the entire year. Okay. Just training with them. And then after Sacramento, I went over to Germany, signed this tiny contract over there in the lower leagues. But then I came back to Orange County, at the time, the Orange County Blues, and I signed there for halfway through the 2016 season. Okay. I came up to that. I think you're probably at MLS already, but I came up and we played in Vancouver. Had one of my better games there.
I would have played probably.
Yeah,
I was still I played like the entire.
I think it must have been like July or August.
I played the entire 2016.
Oh, then we probably played against each other.
That was the year we made it to the Western Conference semifinal.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember playing Orange County at home, but maybe
semifinal. You guys played against what? Swope Park? Was it Swope Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
lost to Swope Park.
Who did we beat in the quarter? Who's the white and green? The middle of nowhere.
Oh, OKC?
OKC, yes. Yeah. So we beat OK. They came to us. We beat them, and then Swope Park, and they had a good. They had
Swope Park was good.
I think Tyler Pasher was on that team.
Tyler Pasher, Levin Maloto.
That's Saloy. He's the one that's currently playing with Sporting Kansas City.
Oh,
Shallowy. He's like a winger. No, the winger. Shallowy, Daniel Shallowy.
I don't know.
They were
good.
They had a very good team. Good. Yeah. Very good team, and I think it was 2-1 or whatever, and we even had 3 or 4 MLS guys playing with us, like because you could obviously they would just drop down.
Yeah, so that's funny. I probably went up against you that season when we came up to Vancouver because I was playing right back and you're playing left back.
Yeah, there was only 1 or 2 games that I missed. I think it was CONCACAF, but other than that, like I was never. Even once I signed, like for the first 2 months, like I wasn't even in any of the 18s or anything. I was just training with them, but playing all my games still with the USL.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. It's so the past too, like everybody I have on the podcast, like our past always, you're 90% of the time will intersect at one point.
At some point
which is cool. And then so following, because you signed, so you were training with the first team then that season. Yeah.
Even before I signed, like there were like maybe twice a week, 2 out of the 5 times they would call in a handful of players. It helped when they opened the facility at at UBC, like the training ground where the academy teams in USL were now in the same area. Initially, it was like the first team was at UBC. We were at I can't even remember the name, the rink area.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense. Like you'd have to drive 35 minutes just to get to the other one. So once we were together, it was like almost every other day while I was training with the first team. And then once I signed first team, I was with them every day and then would just train with the USL the day before the game, which was like kind of weird, but I think that like the team understood because I was with them for so long. But before I had signed, I remember, and you probably had similar experiences. It was like so cutthroat in terms of like we would have a full lineup on Friday for a home game for the USL, like knowing who's playing where, blah blah. We'd get the 18 roster come out, and then Saturday, like there'd be numerous times. Luckily, I was never in that position. I don't know if that was because they wanted me to play. But there was like a handful of guys who were in the starting lineup that would show up Saturday. Like, oh yeah, we have 4 MLS guys coming to play. Like you're not playing. Like, some of them not even dressing after being like in the starting lineup. And you're just like, I can't, and just seeing their face, like you just can't imagine what they're, and from my experience, it was like maybe 50% of the players who were coming from MLS actually like cared and like try, like you could tell because like they also know what they're doing. Like they come down and they're like, some of them feel bad like for taking your spot and like they actually, and then you'd have the other half that like just are getting some minutes. Like why would they care? They're on an MLS contract. The league doesn't really mean anything to them, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that dynamic was, I just remember like
I've never been in that situation.
Really interesting dynamic.
Because I remember always seeing it because I remember being on the other side and being like, who are we going to get this time? Like you're going to go play an MLS 2 team. You're like, are we going to get the MLS side that cares and they bop us around like ding, ding, ding? Right. Or is it going to be an MLS side that doesn't care and we can just outwork them? Yeah. Or is it going to be the USL side and we can try to like outplay him or something.
Right.
It's just it was so, you never knew what you're going to get. And we'd be looking at the games beforehand. It's like, okay, well, the first team plays on Saturday. This is a Wednesday game. So it's probably going to get some first team guys here.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking doing the math of all the games and stuff. And then, so when you signed that contract, what was it like for the end of that year plus another year? Was there option years?
It was a 1+3.
1+3.
Which was like, from my experience, like that was very standard.
Yeah.
So it was, I guess, so it was the rest of that year. So I didn't sign till August.
Yeah.
I think. I have it written in my phone. I think it was like mid-August. So I signed for the rest of that year. And then it was like a 1+3. Mm-hmm. So 1+3 club options.
Yeah.
Which again,
very rookie deal right
is
there.
Like the most rookie deal that you could ever get. But at that time, like it was like,
you didn't have any leverage.
They're going to sign me. Like I'll literally sign me to whatever.
I'll sign
like,
up 1+100.
Yeah, exactly. I could be the best player ever and I'll stay on the same amount of money. But yeah, it was a 1+3. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I was training with them, but I would still play with the USL, played the full kind of season with them. And then it was this is crazy, but it was the last game of the year, Portland Timbers at home. We were up 3-1. We were already out of playoffs. Mm-hmm. Portland was out of playoffs. Game, didn't mean anything other than it was a sold out stadium because Fonzie just got transferred to Bayern Munich. So it was like his farewell game.
Yeah.
The coach wanted, that was the first game I dressed. Coach wanted, like, he told me beforehand, like, we're going to get you in, even if it's for a couple minutes, like, just to, like, get the monkey off your back. You know what I mean? Like, next year, full year, you got some minutes. So it was the 88th minute. I came on. It was crazy. First, I came on the field, and, like, it was a corner kick from when I came on. Mm-hmm. And they were like, you take it. And I was like, okay.
First touch of the game.
First touch of the game was a set piece corner kick because they didn't organize it early or whatever. So I whip in a really good ball. Kendall Wasson, who's this big Costa Rican center back, he's like 6'5", goes up, heads it off the crossbar. My first touch of the game, off the crossbar. It ends up going out of bounds, whatever. Yeah. And then second touch of the game. So again, this was the 88th minute. I was on the field for maybe a minute. It was a throw in on the, like, deep in their half. I was playing as a winger at the time, left winger. Ball gets thrown into me. I planted, turned, went to, like, flick the ball on, and the right back just came through me and tore my ACL. Like, minute into my debut. Didn't know. I obviously went down. I initially was like, didn't think I was in pain, but then when I watched the video back, I was like, I obviously grabbed my knee, went down, went off to the side. Trainer checked it, whatever. I was like, oh, I'm good to go. Like, let me go back on. Went back on, finished the game. Like, maybe there was 2 or 3 minutes left. And then after the game, like, my knee was just like, I could feel that, like, something was wrong. It was locking out. Like, when you're going around, thanking the fans or whatever. Mm-hmm. Went in the locker room. They tested, and they were like, yeah, like, he's for sure. So I missed the entire 2017 year, which would have been. I mean, again, we always think of, like, when you were mentioning luck and all that, but that probably would have been, like, I was going to be the starting left back.
Yeah.
Which obviously would have been super cool, like, to go through a full preseason, like, do all that. And then there was just, like, kind of a trickle down effect of injuries that come with when you're out for that long. But it was like, I mean, I would never take away that the whole experience as a whole was just so incredible. And then,
it's good that you got, I mean, the positive, got your touch in, got a good touch in the MLS, got your minutes in. Imagine if it was reversed. The first play was that first touch. At least you got a good corner out of it. But that's it, bro. That's literally the worst part. That's I will joke about everything in life, all that. But the one thing that I even want to, like, is injuries that I cannot do it. Like, and we talked about even the, like, sometimes the fan chants about injuries when guys are down.
We were speaking about that. It's like, you don't know. And I was like, obviously now from that point on, I was so injury prone. And like, I kid you not, like, I was a number 10, a winger, like I said, I would get tackled 20 times a game. I never got injured ever. And then after that, it was like literally everything. Yeah. Like, it was, but that's one thing that I just, unless you've, and most people have, but like, I feel like unless you've went through a bad injury where you're out for a long period of time and you got to do every little, like, grueling exercise for 3 months in a row. You're doing, like, the most minute things that you think make no difference, but you have to do them.
Clam shells, bro. The clam shells. Those are the ones that kill me.
Until you go through that, like, I feel like that's when, and I'm sure you have as well. That's why, you know, there's certain people you appreciate that you just don't, they won't joke around with it. Because it's like, you've been there, you know how hard it is. It's
the worst, man. It's the most mentally draining thing, like, just like as an athlete to go through. Like, it's obviously it could be way worse. There's worse things in life, but like it's up there. Because that's like, especially like you work so hard your whole life for that.
Everything,
you know?
to get to that point.
It's like, for me, it was like, it took me, once I dropped out of school, it took me a year and a half to sign my first fully pro contract with Orange County Blues. And I went on probably 25 trials and got rejected by all of them. And all of them were like, it was close. We're like, bro, you're good, but we just can't deal with your visa. Or it was like, we already have 2 right backs, but you're there.
Right.
And it's like, so I was like, I was getting positive feedback, but I just wasn't getting the contract. So it kept on motivating me to go. And then I finally had it, finished out the season. Same thing, about to have my first full season at St. Louis FC. And I'm like, this is where it's going to get going. This is where I'm going to launch my career. Right. And I was thinking, after one good season here, then I wanted to go back to Portland Timbers too, or try to work my way that way. And then, of course, you're like 11 months out with sports hernia, needed surgeries on my abdominals, groins. And that was like so tough.
It's tough, man. And I get, like you said, everything in perspective. Like, there's worse things in life, but in that moment, like, that's your life. This is you having to deal with it. And it's so mentally challenging. Like, again, unless you've gone through it, those, like, day to day when you're out for that long and you don't really see the light. Like, you know the time frame, but you're at day 1 and you have 365 more days. You know, like, that's the one where you're like...
The worst for me would kill me is that, like, when everybody goes out and they're having fun and laughing and playing rondos in the sun, and you're in the gym by yourself doing the clamshells, doing the planks or doing whatever, and you're just like, this is the worst.
Right.
This sucks, man.
And it's hard to, like... And the team was amazing. Like, you know, I got along with so many of the guys, and they, you know, it's hard to really feel like you're a part of the team.
You don't feel part of the team at all.
You feel like you are in certain settings, but like you're kind of on the outside. You know, the guys come back from an away trip and everyone's joking around, and you're right. It's every little thing.
And you're like, what do you mean? What's this? Why are we making fun of Maxi right here? And people are like, we're doing. You wouldn't understand. You had to be there.
You wouldn't know. Or like, you get the updates of 22, and I just mute my phone. I'm like, I can't even look at this anymore. I'm missing out on all the fun stuff.
So 2017 was just rehab then, huh?
The whole year. I think it was 10 and a half months. I was out, but I had, like, again, like you said, look at the positives. First off, I mean, I signed the contract before it happened. So I was with the first team, right? So I had, like, I could have done that in USL. And then that's the other, the coach had texted me that night. It was the last game of the year. We had our team night out. You know, I was on crutches, whatever. But the coach texted me and he said, I just want you to know that, like, we would have signed you regardless. Like, if you did your knee before this, like, we were going to sign you, which meant a lot. Like, that's just a nice thing to say, regardless of whether it would have happened or not. But, like, looking at it from a positive light, I was now with the first team. You know, I was with, you know, some of the best people in BC that worked with Olympians, you know, getting surgery from the best people, working with, you know, Rick Celebrini, who was one of the ones, and Carl Bergstrom are 2 guys that helped me. They had gone through previous injuries, but they were kind of part of the sports medicine and physiotherapy team. And they were so diligent with, like, everything that I did to a T, like watching me do, you know, band exercises, making sure my little things, but just helped me so much, make sure that, like, when I came back, it wasn't going to happen again. You know, I truly felt like I was stronger, you know, faster, and felt good mentally. You know, when I came back, I was ready, which, who knows if I was in a different scenario, you know, maybe with the USL team, maybe with the, you know, not all the resources, things like that. So I tried to look at it in a positive light in that manner. So
yeah, that's good. And what happened after? When did you make your comeback? Like, when did you start training again with the team?
So towards the end of 2017, like, when I started training again, all that, but it wasn't until 2017, at the end of 2017, I came on and played 2 games for the USL when I was signed with first team. And then 2018 is where I kind of made my I guess, mini breakthrough, we'll call it.
Yeah. So they picked up your option again for that second option year.
Yes. So the 2018 year, they picked up my option. That year was weird because we went through a coaching change. Our coach got fired about halfway through the year.
Yeah.
And it was me and another left back, an older left back, very experienced player, played in the Bundesliga, that were kind of every other game, every couple games I'd play, he would play, I would play. Thought I was playing decent. Didn't, it is hard when you don't get a run of games.
Yeah.
Like I think in that stint of maybe half the year, there was maybe one or two times where I got a back-to-back game. It was usually one in, one out. Then we had a coaching change, and it was like the U18 academy coach was now the assistant coach, and the assistant coach was now the head coach. And I think they were trying to have like a little bit more of a shift of like playing more academy players, like kind of throughout that second half of the year until they appointed a new coach. So that was kind of when I got a run of like 10, 12, 15 games kind of in a row, and, thought I played well, and we did decent. And that was kind of my breakout-ish year. Yeah.
Was there any like big moments or times in those games that stood out? Like, or is it just a solid year?
Yeah. I mean, nothing like concrete. I mean, it's hard because there were so many times, at least in your head, where like I thought I put in a really good ball.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in the striker, hit the crossbar, hit the so I didn't get any like goals or assists. There was numerous times where I was close, but nothing concrete. Just like being able to play. Again, I keep saying this. Looking back now, like being able to play with some of the players I was able to play with in some of the stadiums I was able to play with.
Yeah.
Like have friends come watch me from back home, like that part of it was just so cool.
Yeah.
Like such an experience that not a lot of people get to have. So I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah, that's sick. That was the 2018 season, right?
Yeah, that was 2018.
So did they pick up the third year of your option?
They did. And that's when like a kind of the first full coaching change. The first one was like an interim assistant coach type thing. So that's when the first head coach came in, Mark Dos Santos. And that was another year where I was having a really good preseason. I was going to be the starting left back. We're playing LAFC away a week before our opener in LA. So both teams are playing starting lineups. Carlos Vela, that was the year that I think he won MVP that year. And it was like 10 minutes into the game, and their left back gets the ball. Vela's like obviously just touchline wide. I'm looking like I'm like, he's about to ping this 50-yard pass is gonna be 1v1. So I start retreating. He pings the ball over top. I go to turn and sprint and just tear my hamstring. Yeah, a week before, and I was like feeling so good.
Yeah.
And it was the same hamstring that they had to take the graft from my ACL, and it was like I was having issues with it throughout the 2018 year, but nothing that really kept me out. But this was like a bad tear. Like it was, I can't remember the details of it, but it was like 2.5 months or something I was out. And they had brought we didn't have a prolific goal scorer, but we had, good players. Anyway, so I go out, and then we had like a center back playing left back in the first game of the year. Just kind of, obviously it was a bit makeshift because I can't even remember who the other left back was, but might have had a knock or something. So they were looking to sign a player, and they ended up signing a guy named Ali Adnan, who was like a DP left back on like 1.3 million.
They're like, well, there we go.
Yeah. So I mean, nice guy. It was just obviously for me, it was like I just remember my agent and I were we were close, and it was like for the most part, he knew my character as a player. He was like never really worried. And I remember the first time when he texted me, he was like, "Hey, just a heads up, they're signing this guy named Ali Adnan. He's coming from Udinese, from the Serie A. He's gonna be one of the DPs." And I was like, I'm honestly, even then I was like, okay, I'll compete, I'll do whatever. And it was that's when I learned sometimes when it's political, there was no competing. You can't.
You're not going to waste $1.3 million.
You can't have
a
guy making 1.3 million sitting on the bench. So it was one of those scenarios again where I really tried to just enjoy training, and when I had my opportunities, I tried to do what I could. But for the most part, I would say that it was out of my control. Yeah. He was a good player. Don't get me wrong. I thought he was a very good player. It just in that kind of scenario, like you said, in that kind of league, like you're not wasting 1.3 million on the bench.
Yeah.
So I played, I don't know, 4 or 5 games maybe, like most of them coming off the bench. It was like that my only 2 starts of the year. LAFC away, we got beat 6-1. Yeah. And New York Red Bulls away, I played as a right winger, and like they had never played me there before. It was like 2 days before the game. They're like, "Yeah, you're gonna play right wing away from home." I can't remember. I think we lost. But those were my only 2 starts. But that was just tough year in and out. But it is what it is. That's sport, man.
That's how it goes. Yeah, I remember at Tulsa from 2019. I was there at the Roughneck, bro. It's so similar to like. It's so funny how you had the ACL and then you came back and you had that year in between. But so I was out for 11 months with my sports hernia on my left side, and I had the surgery in the abs, didn't fix it. And then I needed another surgery in the groin, and the groin, getting surgery in your groin takes forever to come back.
I can imagine.
And like the power you lose, everything, it's just so hard. And then so I had to go down to New Zealand, semi-pro, play down there for a year. And then I came back in the 2019 season with Tulsa when they were the Roughnecks.
Right.
Had a great preseason. We had 4 right backs.
Oh god!
And this was where there's like no like people were getting paid little, like it's even tiny peanuts compared to today. So they just had a whole bunch of guys on a lot, like very little money.
Right.
And then so we had 4 right backs, and I won the starting spot first game of the season. Portland Timbers. One of the last plays of the game, go to turn and run, and I feel the same tear on the right side of my body.
Oh god!
And I was like, "There's a first game of the year, sports hernia again on the right side." I was thinking that's another year out, but luckily I was able to go faster. And get the surgery and tell them exactly what I wanted in the rehab.
Right.
But like same thing, first game back, another injury, and then I came back, and it's just like it's so up and down and up and down.
Yeah, and that's where it's hard to, like, to a certain extent, think that there has to be some luck involved.
Yeah.
And I've seen how you prep as well. Like, I was very professional, and you are as well about, prepping, before the game and making sure I was ready to play. It wasn't like I didn't do my due diligence, and then I was didn't warm up properly, and then I tore my your groin or did my knee or did my hamstring. Like I felt like I was doing everything right, and I'm sure you did as well, and that made it even more difficult because it was like, why me? You don't want to say that, like, but at the same time it was like, why me?
Why is this? Why is my abs? Why are they so weak right now? Like, what is going on? I do so much ab work. Like, why is this not working?
Right.
And then, that 2020 year too, also, we got turned into Roughnecks to FC Tulsa with the brothers coming in with all the money, and they really revamped it. And then that's when I was in off season, and I see new right back signing. What's his name? Oh my god, it's the most Brazilian name ever. It's gonna kill me. It's with an M. It doesn't matter. But he comes in his career, Brazilian U23 national team, played in Serie A and Serie B in Italy. God. And I was like, all right, there we go. Yeah. I'm done.
Same thing.
See you later. Yeah. I came from Tulsa Roughnecks in New Zealand, second division. Like, it's over. But and you see that, and you're just like, this is gonna be tough. But luckily, like USL was different compared to the MLS. It wasn't a DP. He was not like, so I was able to compete. I was able to compete more with him than you were probably with Adnan. A little bit different.
Yeah, slightly different, but same mindset. I'm sure you were the same though. You're like, this is gonna be tough, but like I'm gonna try to compete.
Yeah, it's like all you can focus on is just how you play, how you train, how you work.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's all. And then that's what helped me a lot is like the coach makes the decisions at the end of the day.
Right.
You just got to focus on yourself. You can't worry about anything else.
Yeah.
If hopefully he chooses me, I might just make his decision hard and then go from there.
And that's what we're both now, 10-year pros where like we can now say that. And I would like to think for the most part, I tried to do that. But when you're young, it's so hard.
I was not like that when I would get so mad or so frustrated.
It's so hard to think that no matter what you do, like it might be out of your control.
Yeah.
But like you said, once you really come to terms with that and understand, like, your value, your worth, and work ethic is important, and how you train. Outside of that, there's nothing you can do. The coach makes the decision, and maybe you're just not in favor at the moment. Maybe you are, and maybe there's political reasons why, or financial reasons why certain people are playing,
or maybe just people have just crazy weeks like of training or just are on a hot streak.
Exactly.
Or it's like even then too, if your team's winning, you're not going to make changes.
Of course not.
If it's just like so many other variables and factors. And so yeah, now I was like so much more at peace with just like, just focus on me, train hard, have a good attitude, and go from there. You know?
Yeah, it was super important.
Yeah. And so after 2019, this is your third option year now. Now you're basically fully no ties, free agent.
Yeah.
What happened?
So this was unique. So I'll backtrack a little bit, but I was always such a big advocate of wanting people to know, especially people back home, that I grew up playing in Saskatoon, and I was from Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, like till I was 21. And like, I didn't need to go to an academy. There was no academies available. And like, basically in my head, and maybe I was a bit stubborn, I was like, there is a pathway. You know, I want to show kids that there is a pathway from Saskatoon. Maybe it's a bit unique. Maybe it's this, but like, I didn't want to be labeled as like an academy player from Vancouver.
Yeah.
Because I had an option, and you know, again, I don't know if this was my doing or maybe like combined with my agent, but they wanted to sign me to because I played, there's a certain number of games that if you play with their PDL, which I played, I don't know, 5 or 6, that you could be deemed to sign like an academy contract, and then you don't go towards their salary cap. What I didn't know was if I signed that, I was going to be a domestic to all teams in the entire league. Because if you're come through an academy, you're not deemed international. But I was so set on people, like I was like, you know what, I need like Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, all these players to know that I came from there. So like, I'm not going to sign an academy. Like I'm going to sign a regular contract, not showing that I came through the Vancouver Academy. Like, because it still is to this day, but that was important to me that kids from back home knew that like there was a pathway outside of the academies.
Yeah.
Because some of them weren't able to get there. Like it was not, that wasn't realistic.
But that bit you in the
what
ass
that
later,
did was I was the only active player in the MLS that was a Canadian that was deemed international to every US based team, which, I mean, it killed me. Like I can't remember there was 3 or 4 MLS teams that were interested. And then all of them were like, unless they give us an international spot, like we can't do it. Like you only have a certain amount, and those are typically DPs.
You're not going to waste an international spot on a.
So my options were Toronto and Montreal, and they had good players in those positions. They weren't interested. So then from there, my options were USL and CPL. I mean, maybe overseas, but you'd have the same thing overseas. Like that's anytime I've looked to go overseas, like I've had some interest in Finland, some interest in countries over there and everything, and even had played lower leagues in Germany and New Zealand. But like I've always run into the thing, it's like if they're going to sign you for an international spot, you need to be their DP, right? You know, yeah.
And exactly. So then for me to be a DP over in Finland, I have to drop to a level that's below USL because I'm not a DP player in the USL, and I'm aware of that. Right. So then I need to drop to a lower level. So it's like, do I want to drop to a lower level just to go play abroad? Right. It's like, no, I want to play at the highest level I can, at the highest competition I can. Yeah. So I can do that in the US where I'm a domestic player. And so like that's why so many people ask me on YouTube, like, oh, think it's so easy. Yeah. Why don't you go play in England? Yeah. Like, well, I fucking can't, man. Why don't you go play in the Prem, dude? Come on. Are you stupid, bro? Yeah. They're making way more money over there.
That's too funny.
Yeah. So like I ran into the same problems with that. I'm like, well, now I'm, it's USL. Yeah. Those are the options, or drop down a level. But like I said, it's more important to me to be in the highest competition I can be in. Right. That's what I always think. But yeah, so you got yourself in a sticky situation,
which I honestly didn't know until.
It's interesting that nobody said that when you said no to that at the beginning. Why nobody said like, hey, you should because of this reason.
Right. And I had like I love Matt. He was my agent. I think most of his clientele, I don't know if I might have been his first MLS player.
It should be somebody from the club that would tell you that.
Yeah. And it was unique because I knew I was signing before I even had an agent. So like it was more so logistical why I was getting an agent. And in my head, like I would never have thought, I would be like, why would that matter? Like if I sign an academy deal or that one, and I was like, well, I prefer to sign a non-academy deal. Like I said, so people from back home know that like I don't need to go to the Vancouver FC Academy just in order to make it pro. But obviously what I didn't know like was pretty detrimental in terms of being able to go to other teams in the MLS. And we even tried to, it was pretty funny. Like my agent and I, and even the club started helping a little bit and like basically petitioned the MLS being like, listen, this is where he came from. He was Canadian, like grew up there. They had no academies. He came from this club team called Saskatoon United Soccer Club, like something that they've never even. I was the only player from Saskatoon or like Saskatchewan in the MLS.
It's different than a guy that grows up in Toronto.
Of course,
yeah.
Hence why at the time I was the only. Like, is even clubs they called it like an academy or a club that was big enough to be recognized by the MLS, and Saskatoon United Soccer Club was not big enough to be recognized. But we tried to petition saying like, listen, this is his situation. He literally couldn't do anything in his capabilities to like go through an academy. Like you have to get asked to. I can't just go sign up for the Vancouver Academy or the Toronto Academy. Like how can he be how can you put him in the situation where he's international when he did everything in his power to try not to be? And they basically were like, listen, these are the rules. Like his club team wasn't big enough.
Sorry.
Like we just kind of deal with it. And I was like, shit. But in the same context, like I still am really happy that I made that decision. It's, I don't know, for players like, and that now shout out to Thomas, like one of my business partners who just signed for LAFC, a goalie. He grew up on the East Coast, but ended up moving to Saskatoon when he was younger and went through like the Saskatoon. They ended up getting like a little Whitecaps thing, but I mean, he didn't move to, I think he went to the U18 Vancouver thing. But, you know, even speaking to him, like he said this similar thing. It was like, not because of me, but like seeing somebody where you're from make it, like he was like, this is possible. And I don't know, maybe that wouldn't be the same case if I was like, promoted as like, oh, this is just another Vancouver Whitecaps product that came through our academy.
Yeah, that's a tough decision. It's tough.
I don't know if I would, like, even now, I don't know if looking back, like, would my career be different? Maybe. I don't know.
It's impossible to think like,
do you give up that to be able to, right? Like, it's like, what's more important? It's hard.
I don't know.
What would you do? Or like, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say. Yeah. I mean, I would probably be influenced by the club and my agent telling me. And I would think that if I didn't think that it would matter in terms of being a domestic player and I didn't know that fact, I would for sure be like, no, I want to be from Portland.
Exactly.
I don't want to be a Seattle Sounders, academy product.
Right.
Orange County kind of did that. They made me play one game when I was on trial with them, one game with their U23 Orange County Blues. So then they wrote up an article, Orange County Blues U23 player signs for Orange County. I was like, I'm not. Well, that was just part of my trial. They wanted to see me in 90 minutes, but I was like, I wonder.
They had that set up.
Yeah,
there's no way that wasn't part of their.
And then on my like Wikipedia or whatever, it's like U23 Orange County Blue. I'm like, I thought that was just a part of my trial.
One game,
one appearance. It's funny how they kind of work it to do that.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure that's what Vancouver wanted as well, right? Like,
because it looks better for the club.
He came through our academy, then PDL, then USL, then signed for like this is our pathway.
Because they want to create the pathway for their local market, but then you're thinking about your local market.
I'm like, no, I was 21 in Saskatoon, just finished university.
Yeah, it's different. So then, where'd you go in 2020? COVID year.
COVID year, I went to the CPL, so I played for Valour, which is in Winnipeg. Do you know where that is?
No.
It would be east of Saskatchewan.
Okay.
So we go BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan's kind of dead center, and then Manitoba, which has Winnipeg in it. Okay. So we'd be like, I think we're above like the Dakotas and Montana. I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that give you some gauge?
Yeah.
So I played there for 2 years, and then my second year there, I mean, the COVID year was crazy, obviously, for everybody, probably. Bubble year. Actually, it was 2 years, wasn't it? It was 2 years we were in a bubble.
The second year is a weird mix. Like
in the fans like towards the end started.
It was like a mixed fan base type thing, and there was like still some weird rules. The 2021 was weird too.
Yeah.
Did you play with William Accio at Valour?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I did a YouTube collab with him.
Really?
Video. Yeah.
No way. I need to watch that. Willie's my boy.
It's
man.
back in. It's probably when I was at Tulsa in 2021. We did that. And
how did that come? Did he reach out to you?
He reached out because he has a YouTube channel and stuff too. So he reached out to me and we started talking. And he's like, yeah, I'm playing the CPL. And then he's like, we should do a USA Canada CPL versus USL day in the life. So we both filmed our days, and I kind of cut him up, and then he had a video as well. It did really well. It got like 70,000 views or something.
Wow.
But like, yeah, so me and William,
I need to watch
William
that.
Accio, we had a little collab video. It's kind of funny. But I've never met him in person.
Right.
But now I follow him. I saw him go over to Scotland.
Yeah.
And all that
He's
kind of stuff.
super good guy.
He's fast, bro.
He's rapid, man.
He's rapid.
He scored probably one of the best goals I've seen.
He also is one of the worst misses I've ever seen.
He's the worst miss I've ever seen. I was on the field for that
Really?
miss. Yes.
I saw that and I was like, that one hurts.
It hurts
That
bad.
hurts. I felt
But
bad.
if you know, and again, it's like literally everything had to line up perfectly for that to happen. And I mean, like the middle of the net, like the middle of the goal line is like where they put the pole in for the field goal.
Yeah.
So it's slightly raised. So it just comes out and like, listen, I'm not giving him an excuse, but like, I know why it happened. Like, listen, nobody can do that. Like it's harder to do that than, or not to do that than to do that.
Yeah.
And it like the ball just happened to hit that little ridge, bounce up. I just remember, like, I mean, literally everyone was in shock. You should have seen the coach.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Everybody, like, people were
You
like,
guys still won that game though, right?
we won the game.
Yeah.
Thank
Which
God. But like,
helps a lot.
I mean, like, people thought like, people just stopped playing for like a minute. Like, people were looking around being like, wait, is the ball still in play? Did that go in? Did that not go in? Like, we thought that it went in, and then he just went to boot it like into the net and hooked it out. Thank God we still won the game.
Could you imagine if you lost? That
went so viral,
bro. Everyone
like,
was like,
talking,
they were saying match fixing, like all
I'm
this
talking
kind of stuff.
50 million views on some, like, it was on NBA players were tweeting about it. But back to the goal he scored. I don't know if you see.
Yeah, let's talk about the good.
It was like a classic. I think we were up 1-0. Team was pressing high, and it was kind of a counterattack. And like fullback, our right back had like a half clearance that was like still like maybe 10 yards outside of our 18, and he picked it up and just took off.
Yeah.
And like he just ran by the first guy. Second guy kind of went to slide, and like classic. He just got a poke, like jumped over him. The last guy, he just did like a shimmy where he just faked it. He basically did a 360. The guy, he took off like end to end. It was like a 60-yard run. Full speed, scored.
I've seen that.
Did the front flip. It was, I think it was goal of the year.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, that is unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. It's like Alphonso Davies type, like
100%. Like just,
which you've also played with Alphonso Davies.
Yes.
At Whitecaps too.
Yeah.
You played with some fast players.
Fast.
You got Alphonso Davies, William Accio, Matt Sheldon.
I knew you were getting in there. Listen, you're rapid.
No,
I don't know if
like that.
I don't know if he is. Willie would be up there. It's so hard to like gauge when you're just, and we didn't wear pods for training, but Fonzie, I know, because we used to do, it was like every Wednesday, again, it was similar to like, it was like our hardest day, but we would do 2 half field sprints. So like the jog to the 18 build up, and they wanted you to try to hit a max speed. And like, when I say that this guy looked like he was jogging and he would be flying past everybody else, like he was, I can't remember, I don't want to give a number because I mean, it's going to be wrong, but I know that he was at least like the fastest guys we had were like in the 9, I get like meters per second. I think it was like,
I used meter per second at Charleston 9. So sounds about right. Yeah.
It's 9.
If you get 10, it's crazy. Yeah.
He was over 10. Like he was like, I want to say he was like 10-2, 10-3, where like some of the sports performance guys were like, he's hitting literally Olympic sprinters speeds. Like he could qualify if he just picked it up a little bit. Like that's how, and we're talking, he's 16 years old at the time. But Eric would have been like, I think Eric was close to 10 too. There was a couple guys, but like he was at that age, he was just so athletic. But Willie, same thing. Willie was so rapid, very raw, such a good guy. He was like, good locker room guy, always happy.
That's funny. Yeah, it's and so you see some of those players, because like I was always one of the faster guys growing up, and then I kind of relied on it when I was getting into college and stuff. And then as you get to the pro level and you see these people who are just a different breed of just speed.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I got to actually work on controlling the ball and passing because I can't just run by. I can't just focus on running fast anymore.
Because now everybody's kind of fast.
Everybody's at least decently fast.
Yeah.
And then you have those guys. And so if you get paired up against a fullback who's just faster than you and all you have is speed, you're like, all right, well,
I lost.
Yeah. Yeah. So how were the 2 years of Valor though? Did you enjoy it? How was
it was good. I had
you had successful seasons as a team, right?
Yeah. I immediately stepped into like more of a leadership role, which I like really appreciated, coming from, having the 4.5 years in Vancouver and the MLS, going to, quote unquote, a lower league in the CPL. But I think I automatically took on a bit of a leadership role, which I was excited about. And the bubble years were a bit weird. Yeah. I still played well, went through, a few injuries here or there, but my last year for Valor, I had a really good year. Got like a team of the year for the CPL, and then that's when Tulsa signed me and our striker,
Moses
Dyer, good friend of mine.
Yeah, and then it's funny to go from Canada your whole life to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was the most. I think it was between Tulsa and New Mexico.
Okay,
were the two teams kind of. And honestly, the only reason I think I chose Tulsa was because Moses. Yeah. Like I knew it was a familiar face, and he had signed before I had, and he knew that they were talking to me. And if all else was equal, I knew nothing about either.
Yeah.
And I knew one of my teammates was going there, and he was excited about it, and I was excited about like their plan and what they spoke about. And then I heard really good things about. I didn't know Blair at the time, the head coach, but I knew. Richie Ryan and Matt Watson. Actually, I played with him in Vancouver when I was with the USL. He was with the first team. So I had a little bit more of a connection there, and obviously knowing Moses was going there, that was kind of like the tipping point for me.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because that 2022 season was the year I left Tulsa. I was there for 3 years.
Right.
And then after that 2021 season, I wanted to go back, and they wanted me back, but like I was at that point where it's like 3 years there. I was like, I just wanted something new. Like I had something, Mimi and I both were talking about it. I'm like, we were talking about maybe after the second year trying something new, trying to go somewhere else. But I love the fans. Like it was a good setup. I was happy. But I was just like, I just had that gut feeling. I'm like, it's time to go. And I had a really good 2021. My best season so far in the USL was that 2021 season.
Okay.
So I knew I was going to have some
offers
options,
from other teams.
And that's why I left after that year.
Dude, no shade. You could not have picked a better time to leave.
That's rough. That's what I heard. And also too, Mike Incian, that coach, left, and that was my
your connection to
there. And he really liked me. I had a good relationship with him, and so that whole off season, I saw some parts were moving, and that's when other interest was coming. I'm like, this is even solidifying that I should leave and try something else too.
Right.
So so you made the move to Tulsa. Also too, we haven't even talked. Carmen, you've known your wife now since high school.
Since high school.
Which is crazy.
High school sweethearts. Yeah. Since we were in grade 10 English class. That's when I made the move.
What was your pickup line? Did you have one or you just start talking?
I can't even remember. I didn't have like a set pickup line. I knew, this is a funny story. She's going to laugh if she hears this, but I knew still one of her best friends, but I knew her before I knew Carmen. I had met her through, my friend was like kind of seeing her, and I was from the west side of the city originally, which I would not by any means say poor, but like it was not the affluent area of the city. Like, whereas where she lived and where I ended up I went grade 9, I went to high school on the west side, and then I transferred to Centennial, which was a soccer academy school, which was on the east side, which is a nice area, affluent area. So I didn't know many people. I knew like my best friend went there. It was the big reason for the move. But anyways, I had met one of her best friends before I had met Carm. And for whatever reason, I wasn't doing it on purpose, but after she had told me that like it bugged her that I would talk or like say hi to her best friend because I knew her and not like talk to Carm or say hi to her. But it wasn't because it was just because I didn't know her.
Yeah.
But in her head, it was like, you just say hi to her and not even speak to me. And I'm like, I didn't do that on purpose, but I can see.
So you created a little fire in her.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I definitely made the first move. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was like classic high school. Like we would go watch so the school was attached to the indoor center I was talking about, the indoor soccer center. So we'd go watch after school, like soccer games that were on and things like that. And just kind of clicked from there. And that was grade 10. And now we're 15 years later. Yeah.
So you've spent almost more of your life with each other than with that. That's crazy, man.
Yeah. It's wild to think of.
And now she's pregnant. You're about to have your first kid.
Yeah.
You still don't know the gender, which is crazy.
Yeah. We're excited. Yeah. August 3rd.
August 3rd. Yeah. That's coming up fast.
I know.
That's why I needed to get you on the podcast now. Yeah. You're going to be called the 100 Days of Darkness, man.
I know. I've been telling people, you would tell me that. Everyone's like, oh, that's so exciting. I'm like, listen, does 100 Days of Darkness sound fun? It doesn't sound fun to me.
Bro, I remember just this feeling of just going to training, just turning it on, of just like getting like training whatever, and just be on the high of like the adrenaline going, and then coming back and literally being in 2-hour increments of sleeping, cleaning, or taking care of the baby, then sleeping again for like 45 minutes, then making dinner, then sleeping for half an hour. I'd like come home and like anytime I'd put my head on a pillow, I'd pass out. I'd be out for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, wake up, and then like, what's going on? Yeah. Middle of the night, you're like wide awake and I'm watching a show. Like it's just it's the weirdest thing.
Oh, I bet.
It's the weirdest thing.
But you seem to have it down when the 3-month hit, when you like,
we got Scarlett on a good sleep routine fast. Told you the Ferber method.
Dude, whatever you did, based on your energy levels when you come into training, I'm doing it.
Scarlett sleeps 12, 13 hours every single night, plus an hour, 2-hour nap in the day.
But like, I don't think that's normal in terms, and not normal. Yeah. I don't think that's the average.
I don't
by
think so
any
either.
means.
She's a good sleeper, and obviously there's a luck component. Like we did that 2 days of the training, and then it happened because like I know babies that they've tried it and they won't sleep at all.
Yeah.
So got lucky with that, but like whatever that method is, plus having a good luck with her sleeping genes or whatever. Yeah, it's been nice.
I'm a good sleeper, so I'm hoping that the baby gets that.
Yeah, I was a bad sleeper, so I was worried. Really? I just wanted to stay awake the entire time.
But now are you?
Now I'm good, yeah.
So I'm good now.
Yeah.
I was, that's what I'm scared of too. I was told that I was like a literal demon baby. Like baby. Didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I was like colicky, which meant.
Me too.
And I would like hold my breath till I would turn blue in the middle of the night. So my parents like had to watch me at all times. Apparently I was just like a menace.
Yeah.
And Carm, I mean, if you know Carm, like, it's like sweet little angel. Carm was like of course her parents are like, oh my God, she was an angel. Like didn't do anything. She was like reading by 4, like whatever, just like the perfect girl. And I'm like, hopefully we get that. Cause if we get me, we're in trouble.
Yeah. My only thing my parents said is that, as if you could probably guess, it was like from once I was about Scarlett's age, 1.5 till now, just such high energy level of wanting to play and just do stuff constantly. My mom was like, I just run around downstairs in the basement, toys, baseball, basketball, like screaming, do whatever. And they're just funny. Like, you were no problems, but just the energy level was just too much.
I can see it.
I can see it.
I was like a big outdoor, like I was always doing stuff outside, like whether it was in the backyard, jumping fences, biking, doing whatever. I was a big outdoor kid. But I have no doubt that
it was bad.
You had energy levels as a kid.
My parents said that it's good that I was first because I'm the oldest. Because they're like, we thought that's just how kids were. But then we had normal kids after. They're like, if we would have been reversed, we would have sent you off for adoption. Because they're like, there's no way.
Why is this kid? He hasn't stopped running in an hour and a half.
What is wrong with this kid? Yeah. So Scarlett's, I don't think has too much, but she's definitely a lot of energy.
I can see little bursts of energy.
She just screams and runs around. Yeah. That's funny though. I'm excited for you. It's gonna be.
I'm excited. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm nervous, but I mean, hearing from you, hearing from Nate, hearing from friends, like I think it's such a cool. Like if you can really reflect, and obviously I haven't been through it yet, but now my Instagram is just littered with like quotes of like baby quotes and things like that.
I cry like once a day because those stupid reels come up of like enjoying the childhood. I'm like, God damn it.
One of them is like, it's something along the lines of like, if you're in this moment where like your baby's crying or doing something that you don't want it to do and you're like kind of mad or upset, like think about, fast forward, you're 80 years old. That one, have you seen it? It's like,
yes, bro.
What would you do in this moment, or like what would your mindset be if you could go back, to this age and be holding your baby at whatever, a month, 2 months, 3 months? Like how would you view it? And it's so easy to say that.
Yeah. No, I did that so many times though, like holding Scarlett in the middle of the night, so tired, just bouncing, trying to get her to sleepy, and then being like so frustrated, and then being like, wow, there's going to be a point where I'm, and like, I don't do that now anymore. Yeah. And like, I don't miss it, but like at the same time, I'm like, oh, I don't have to rock her to sleep. Right. Just kind of, you're like, kind of want to rock her to sleep a little bit. Yeah. So it's, I think about it's crazy, but there's no crazier experience I've ever been through than holding your baby for the first time. It's literally like, you can't even describe it. You just have to do it.
As it gets closer to the date, like even thinking about it gives me like this insane. Weird, cause I've heard that from so many people. And when you know that will be the case, you just like almost are like, I can't wait to feel what they're talking about.
It's insane. Yeah. It's insane. It's crazy. I'm excited. Yeah, a few more weeks, man. Maybe earlier. You never know. Maybe later.
Dude, I could get a call right now.
Yeah.
And have to leave this podcast.
You better not, because we got to finish this podcast.
All right, let's do it.
So then Tulsa. So you're there for 2022 season to start. Yeah.
Not the whole season.
Yeah. So how did the preseason go, and how did the eventual events from that year go?
I mean, preseason was awesome. Like it was a standard preseason. Playing well, excited for the year. First like 4 or 5 games of the year, played really well. Like got team of the week a couple times. I picked up like a couple minor injuries. I missed 1 or 2 games, like nothing major. And then like out of the blue, I just went from being the starting left back to just not even in the 18 one week. And I was like, obviously, I noticed as you lead up the week, I noticed like on the Thursday or Friday that I wasn't in the starting lineup. And I was like, it's a bit abnormal. Like I didn't have a bad game. I didn't have an amazing game, but I was like, whatever, maybe a bit of rotation. And then the Friday came, Friday night, the lineup comes out and I wasn't even in the 18. And then I was like, hey, this is weird. Like I was fully fit. So then it was like Saturday morning, a handful of players who weren't in the 18 went in to train. So I go in for training or whatever, and the coach was sitting like above this turf field, like kind of it was like a little overlook type thing. We were training on field, and I remember
Titan.
Yeah, you would know. Yeah,
I know
he was sitting
Titan
up top, and I remember even like saying he was up top, so we didn't like talk at first, but I remember even like the assistant coaches were running it, and I remember going up to them being like, "What's going on?" And they were I can't even describe how awkward like the conversation / like them trying to avoid it, which I get it's not their place, like it's on the coach, but it was kind of like, oh, like let's talk about it after, like, oh, talk to Blair about it, that type of thing. So then after the session, I just didn't even go back to the locker room. I walked like straight up to Blair and I was like, hey, do you have a minute? And he was like, yeah, like sit down, whatever. And I was like, hey, I'm just like curious, I just kind of want to know where I stand, like why, how do I go from, I thought I was playing well and then I'm just not even in 18. And he wouldn't even look me in the eye, which was he just like kept looking forward, which was a bit awkward. And he was like, listen, I think we should, like, I don't want to talk about this before the game. And I was like,
oh, that's a terrible answer.
Right?
That's hard. Yes.
Dude, like you can ask anybody, and I'm not saying that to boost myself, but like I'm always a good pro. Like I would show up every day. Like I do my work. I work hard in training. I try to do everything. I would like to think I'm not toxic. Like I'm trying to, good locker room guy, all those things. So it wasn't like I was coming at him from an angle of like, listen, I should be playing. Like this is ridiculous. Like nothing like that. So he was like, let's talk about this later. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like I'm here right now. Like, well, and he was like, I want to focus on the game. Like I want you to come in tomorrow morning, which would be Sunday morning. Dude, when I left there, I called my agent so fast and I was like, something's going on. Like this doesn't make any sense. And he had no idea. He was like, I'll let me call around or whatever. And then, but like when I got home to Carm, I was like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Like something's going on. Like it just doesn't add up. The other thing would happen, I guess, within like that, I don't know if it was like the day or two before, we got a player, Adam Armour, on loan from Charlotte, his first team as a left back. Got him on a free loan. So then like I kind of put the pieces together and I was like, they're trying to move me. Like they got a free loan as a left back. He'll be a starting left back. it doesn't make sense to have me on decent money and then this guy on a free loan, whatever. So I told Carm right away, and then the Sunday morning I go in, and it was like the same kind of conversation where like he would barely look me in the eye. It was almost like, it almost seemed like it wasn't his decision. Like he was the one that had to say it. I don't know, maybe not. He was like, listen, you're a smart guy. Like, we got a free loan. Like, this has nothing to do with you as a player or whatever. Like, we're trying to trade you. Like, we got a free loan, you know, blah, blah. And I just remember, like, I was a little bit in shock, kind of already had an idea, but I was like, I kind of explained, like, you know, my wife and I like chose Tulsa. Yeah. It's like not the most glamorous place, but like we were excited to, you know, and basically just said like, I'm disappointed in, whatever. I'm disappointed. And I even said, I was like, I understand this is a business, but it is what it is. And I kind of just walked out. And then it was weird because they were trying to trade me, but so many teams had full rosters. Like you're now 5 months into the season. Mm-hmm. So he like, and I even said to him, I was like, so what do I do now? Do I come in to train? Like I literally was like, okay, so you want to train me, but you don't have a team yet. Yeah. So like, what am I supposed to do? And he was like, yeah, just come in like normal, kind of like train. And I was like, okay. So I'm just going to come in normal, train, even though like I know that you're actively trying to trade me. Yeah. And then he also was like, which is also kind of interesting. He was like, yeah, like if you're really interested in any teams like in Canada or anything like you want to go to, like we'll try to facilitate that, which I guess to a certain extent was not like, he was like, I want to make, we do want to make sure that you're happy with whatever decision that we ended up making. But long story short, like the trade ended up going back and forth with Detroit for like 2+ weeks where I would go into training and like I would train for the first bit, and then as soon as there was too many numbers, it was like academy kids were training and I was on the side just like by myself running to try to just stay fit, which was like very unique. I've never been in a position. I didn't even know you could get traded. Yeah. At least I was like, oh, I'm here 2 years guaranteed. Like I'm not getting traded. So that part was a bit unique. And like, again, based on my character, I was like a little disappointed with how they treated the situation of like a quote unquote veteran player, experienced player, like running on the sideline, for 2 weeks while the team is training. But like you said, like once it all went through in the trade, like, I mean, I couldn't be happier, like where I am, Detroit, like all the guys, Tiffany, Trev, I mean, it's such a family here. And, once we got here, like I was so happy that it was done with it, especially hearing from, I mean, I'm sure you've heard, just kind of with Tulsa, like they kind of revamped everything, and it wasn't like they kind of got rid of a lot of players and switched some things up. But it was like, it's hard to explain the scenario because it was like all within the span of 3 weeks. It was like starting left back, being traded, you're going to Detroit, drive to Detroit, now you're on a brand new team.
It's like, funny, it's like not only in sports, but like it's such a unique thing that only really that we've all been through, or most of the veteran players have been through a season like that, or a trade like that, or a move like that, where you go, like you said, in a 3 week span, completely envisioning your life for 2 years in Tulsa with this team, playing, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, 3 weeks later, you're now in a different city, meeting new teammates with a new team, envisioning your life for the next year, 2 years here now. Like the same thing when I got traded, because I got traded. I was a trade from Hartford. Right. And I got the news and I was just like so pumped because I was really looking for a move as well. But like, just the same thing. I went from thinking 1 week, I'm envisioning my life, moving to my new home in Hartford, envisioning how, like Scarlett there running around, playing for this team, coming into preseason with Brendan Burke, all this stuff. And then a week later, I'm already in Detroit, thinking like, okay, I got to meet Danny Dicchio and this and it's new teammates. It's so funny, like how fast it goes, but you just adapt and, like I said, I'm so pumped to be here now. But like, did Carmen move around everywhere with you from everywhere. Like everywhere? Yeah.
And we moved, maybe not as much as you. I don't know. We moved a fair bit, but luckily, like our first big move was Vancouver. Yeah. For both of us, and we were able to at least stay there for 5 years, like with combined with the PDL, USL, and then the first team, which is a good stint, and it was a beautiful city, and that was really cool. And then from there, to Winnipeg for 2 years, and then Winnipeg to Tulsa. Yeah, she's been incredible.
How was her attitude when she's getting settled into Tulsa, like moving into her apartment, and then you tell her like, "Hey, babe, I think we're moving to Detroit." Like, what did she say? Was she excited? Was she pissed?
Yeah, honestly, she's so amazing. Like, she is by far.
It's not what you said off the podcast.
Imagine. She's like by far my number one fan, and like her initial thought was like, basically like, excuse my language, like fuck them.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean? Like they don't appreciate you. Like, we're gonna go to Detroit and we're gonna make the best of it. And like, thank God that she has that attitude. And like, I would like to think for the most part I do as well. But also, like, there was a day or two where mentally I was just like, what is going on? It is like a balancing act too of like, you know, could they have, like, if I was that good, like, would they have tried to keep me though? You know what I mean? Like, things like that run through your head, and it's like, yes, okay, for a business standpoint, it makes sense. They get a free loan, you know, MLS player, but like, I would like to think I can compete with that. So like, why wouldn't they try to keep me?
Yeah.
But yeah, she was like, and luckily her job allows her, she works remote, so we can kind of go anywhere, and she can still work, which is amazing, because other way around, like, I have no idea where we would be and like what the situation would be like. But she always loves experiencing like new cities and things like that. And I mean, Detroit, we didn't know much about it, but we knew it was like a big city, had all the major sports teams. So that was kind of cool to be like, oh, now we can go experience like a big city
and close to Canada.
Yeah. Which like, obviously that ran through our head too. And we're like, wow, we can live in Canada potentially. We didn't know the exact situation, but we're like, we can live in Canada and play in Detroit. And like, now she doesn't need a visa to work. Like, everything was, you know, you start thinking about the positives, and you're like, this could be like a really sweet setup.
Yeah. I have it on camera, but on YouTube, but I told Mimi, and she was like, okay, I got to look at houses, because we usually go to Zillow and look at apartments and houses. That's what Mimi always does whenever I hear about a move or a potential interest from teams and stuff. She starts envisioning her whole life in that city. And she was looking at Detroit, and I was telling her, she's like, okay, well, she's like looking at houses. She's like, oh, there's some good options over here. I'm like, well, Mimi, that's Canada. We can't live in Canada. And she's like, that's Canada? She's like, where is this place? She had no idea about how. She's like, it's below Detroit. I'm like, maybe it's weird, but
that's the craziest thing ever. When I found that out, when I tell people that Windsor is south of Detroit,
people are
like they literally, every single person immediately goes to a map, because they're like, that can't be. This is the border. It's underneath.
I knew that because I came and played here, and I was like looking at the map of where we were, and like I saw a Canadian flag out of our hotel window. Right. I was like, oh, and then I found that out. I was like, wow. So then when I got traded, I'm like, I already knew that it was Canada there, but it was so funny. He was like, what? Canada?
Yeah,
like,
they'd be shocked.
Yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, like, it is hard though with being in a business of like, it really is like, you were a number to a club, and it's like clubs for the most part treat you as a human being, treat you as part of the family, especially here at Detroit. Like, it's so great. Like, it's the most family oriented club I've ever been a part of.
Me as well.
The best
by far
10 times.
Yeah.
But I've been at other clubs where like, you are a number, and you are, if your salary is $50K, $60K, whatever it is, that's your number.
Yeah.
And if we make sense to save $10K by doing this move, we're going to save our club $10K. Yeah. And that's how it equates to.
Yeah.
And like, for you, a free transfer versus your salary, it's like, it's a no brainer.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You know, even if you are better, it's like, well, we're saving this much amount of money.
Yeah.
Numbers wise, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your situation. It's a business, and you're a business asset.
Yeah, that's
and
the
it's
hard
hard.
part.
You got to take the emotions out of it.
100%.
And at the beginning, I was like that, like so, like very emotional in that kind of part of like, oh, you know, like if I got moved or a club traded or whatever, I was like, it was like a personal attack. And then it took me a while to realize like, no, it's shifted. It's not a personal attack. It's just so emotionless.
Yeah,
it hurts, but like there's nothing personal about it.
No, of course
it's
not.
just numbers and business, and this is how it works. Could it be handled better? Always.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, those decisions are numbers. You know?
I think, I completely agree with everything you said. I think what some clubs probably, and ownerships who aren't super connected don't understand is like, sometimes that, you know, amount of money or situation like won't make up for like what that will do to the team though.
Yes.
So like maybe the team dynamic and I'm not saying my situation specifically, but like I was in the leadership group. I was really close with all the players. Like we all got along, and like by no means me leaving alone like didn't fracture the team, but there was numerous players that left and new players coming in, and like those things have an impact on how the team performs, what the team dynamic is. You know, is there a lot of positivity or is it toxic? And sometimes I think that, like you said, ownership, especially if they're not really well connected, or maybe they don't know soccer that well. They look at it like strictly from a business standpoint. Like you said, like, okay, number A minus number B equals this makes sense for us, and not look at like, okay, but how will this impact the team or, you know, the mentality of the coach or whatever the aspect is, but it's almost too business-like.
Yeah. And that's why I think Detroit's done so well over the years, is because it's so much of like, how can we get this group of guys on the same page, all fighting for the same thing? It's like, even like I saw Jurgen Klopp was saying in an interview, he's like, you can manage so many different ways, and you can use fear, you can do whatever, but like, if they don't like you, they're like, you can only use fear or whatever so much. It's going to come back to you. You have to have the players have to want to win for you and like you as a person. And if they don't like you as a person or want to win for you, or want to see the coach or the team or the club succeed, they're not going to give the same amount of effort.
Of course.
It's like with Detroit, even like you're out there running around, you're like, I don't want to be the one who lets my teammates down, all these fans in the section down, the Danny down, Trevor down. Nobody, I don't let it be me. I don't want to be that guy. It's like so different than other clubs where, even like what you said, like with the man management, I've been at clubs where you have your guys maybe that are in and out of the starting lineup, but they are the best locker room guys ever. And I've had the two best locker room guys both get traded, and then you bring in other guys who they're not bad, but they're maybe just, you know,
it's not the same.
It's not the same, and then the locker room just dies. And you're like, oh, that kills us.
Yeah,
that kills us right there.
And I think I've used this example before, but you know, in the MLS, like why teams like Seattle Sounders are so successful, because like when you look at their rosters, like it's not like they have a crazy stacked roster ever, or like they don't spend the most money. And I've always wondered that, because I would compare them to Vancouver, or you know, maybe some of the other clubs. And I have a good friend that's one of the assistant coaches for the Sounders, Andy Rose, who played with me in Vancouver. And one of the things he said is like, from a top down like structure, people are obsessed with the club. Like the accountants know every player's name. It doesn't matter who it is in the club. Like they love the sport, and it's such a family from the top down. Like, you know, even the behind the scenes, it's not, you know, where I feel like a lot of clubs, there is that disconnect of like, this is kind of like the players, the staff, and then there's like the backroom people, you know, the owners and stuff. And that disconnect, I just think it all really matters, and comes down to how your team plays, how they perform, how they want to play for the club.
100%. And Detroit, like that, it's been a smaller club and like grassroots coming up, competing with clubs that have massive budgets, crazy facilities, huge, amazing facilities and stadiums and everything. And it's like, a lot of times they have been the underdog, and they've improved and increased the budget and grown so much, but like they've been competing and doing really well in these leagues that, you know, looking at just strictly numbers, they should be lower.
Of course. And you look at the numbers and say, like what we talked about, like a business person would be like, yeah, they'd be way down at the bottom. Like, what are you talking about?
I remember even seeing it my first year and seeing Detroit and being like, oh, they're going to struggle in the USL Championship. Like when they moved from Nisa up here, I was thinking they're going to struggle. And then the first game of the year, they beat us. I'm like, maybe not. Maybe not. But there's something here.
You see it here though. You know, from my experience, like you said, at other clubs, like there's just a different aspect of connection with the ownership, who you see walking around the facility every other day.
You see Alex and Sean and Shrek and everybody
who started this from basically nothing, and like they really just like are fans of the game and fans of the club, and everybody wants to see it succeed. And that's so powerful, and it's somewhat rare. You know, very few clubs I feel like really have that. Especially in North America. Like you see that a lot in England and passion, but it's growing here, but it's still a long ways away.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so then that literally brings us to this season. This is your second year with Detroit, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So then things have been going. I mean, how was the change? Like, because you were with Trevor, and then now the change with Danny. Were you worried at all having a new coach? Or what were your thoughts coming into this year?
I mean, you always have that I knew of, as soon as Danny signed, I had friends message me from the TFC Academy that I had played with in the CPL, or people that had knew him and be like, you got a really good guy.
Yeah, I had the same too.
Everybody I talked to was like, you're going to be excited. You're going to want to play for this guy type of thing. So that alone was like really exciting. And then speaking to Danny and coming in, it was almost like a fresh start. Like last year when I came here, it was, the club was amazing. Everything was good, but it was still, I felt a bit segmented from, being halfway through the season. You don't get a full season with the team, in and out of lineups while you're trying to get fit. So just having a full year under Danny and kind of a new structure, Trev now as the GM and have a full preseason and everything. I was just excited, and I saw we made a few new signings. So you always get excited about a new year.
Yeah. The same thing when I signed here. I had a couple friends, same thing. TFC Academy. Somebody from SAC was just like, "Oh, it's a great guy.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna just like, regardless of how the year goes, whatever. You're gonna have to really, really enjoy your time like working with Danny."
Right.
And I was like, "Sweet, that's all I can ask for."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's been really, really had a great start to the season. I'm like, wow, I haven't felt this, and it's been a few years, man. I needed this. I needed this.
Can West, what I was telling you, when we won that, I think that was the only year. And I mean, that's not professional, but where I like the same sort of like where we went on a run of winning, and had 8-10 wins in a year.
Yeah.
Like I've never had that.
Yeah.
Ever really.
Yeah.
USL the one year with the Whitecaps too, but yeah, it's just it's such a cool feeling.
Yeah. Our game against Houston, because we had that long winning streak in the Open Cup run, and then we won in Houston, and I was like, after the game, I was like talking to Mimi. I was like getting emotional because like I haven't felt like good in just like winning and like celebrating in the locker. I was so used to going to the locker room and just being quiet.
Yeah.
And people are throwing stuff and cussing, and you're just like in the locker room, just like you feel like you're playing the same, just as hard. You're doing everything, doing all the same stuff, and it's just not working.
Yeah.
And that's 2 years in a row that I was like, what is going on?
And
man?
You really went like polar opposite.
Bro, I went from like winning at Tulsa. I mean, we weren't top of the table.
Yeah.
We were second or third or something, but like we had decent, went into playoffs and did everything. And we had a good team, but then we go to a bottom of the table 2 years in a row, like literal bottom of the table.
Right.
It was so hard.
Right.
And people are like messaging you like, what's going on, man? What happened?
Yeah.
It sucks. But yeah, so that's your career. You're a veteran. This is like you said, 10-year pro now, right?
Yeah. I think I'm in my 10th year this
10th year. Yeah,
crazy.
I think this is my 10th year as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to end the podcast with a few final questions, and then we'll end it. So, what is the worst moment of your career? I think I have an idea, but like, what do you think the absolute lowest period of your career was?
The debut, like the ACL.
ACL,
for sure.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Just like I can't even explain the high to low of like that was my debut. I was coming on, and like I knew everybody back home was watching. It was on. It was a national broadcast, MLS. Like the emotion I had from like a span of like say 15 minutes from like the 88th minute till getting into the locker room after the game, and then being like, it's your ACL, you've tore it. Like that high to low was like, I can't even, like, it was like the highest high I've ever had to like the rock bottom of like, all that was going through my head was like, that's a year. That's a year now I'm going to be out. And like, what if they don't pick up my option next year? Like, you know what I mean? Immediately you start thinking of the worst. So I would like to think that only lasted a few days, and then I really tried to get in a good mindset of like, okay, now I need to like really grind. If I want to be back, I need to do this. So luckily that was like a short stint, and having Carm and so many support pieces around me obviously helped a ton. But I would say that was the worst.
That's tough. Yeah. I mean, I figured that would be it. That it is the high to low that kills you. Like if you're already at a low or medium and you go down, it's like bad, but like it's the worst when it's the highest. That was like me coming back for the second sports hernia. Like I grinded it out semi-pro in New Zealand, thinking like everybody's telling me on YouTube in the comment sections, you're done, kid. Like you're done. You're never gonna be pro again. Finally signed the pro contract. I was at the high. He was peanuts for Tulsa Roughnecks, who was at the bottom of the table. I was like, I don't care. Like I'm back.
You're having a good year.
I'm back. Like I don't care. I have one good year. I can keep on going. And then finally making it into the starting lineup for that first game, and then instant tear again. I'm like, I went from like here to all the way back down again.
And it's so hard initially to you think of the worst, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, I think, natural.
I thought I was done because I was like, it's going to take me another 11 months. I'm going to be out. No way I'm going to rekindle a career now at 25, 26.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. So I was like, it was tough. On the flip side, what was the best moment of your career?
Probably signing.
Yeah.
Like that same sort of thing where that, like, for that whatever few days of like just everything culminating to finally be like, wow, like it happened. Like being able to tell people back home and like everything that I had done to that point, you know, I didn't have people doubt me per se, but again, like nobody had done it yet. And like my family was big on like, oh, you should probably go to school. Like, don't, you know, pursue a career in school. And like, it wasn't that they weren't supportive. It just was like, to them, it was like not realistic.
It's like when we're older now, you look back at all the luck, like we said, all the little things, and you probably tell your kid the same thing. Like,
of course,
go for it, but like,
you
don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. You want to look after them, and I'm sure they just like didn't want me to be disappointed and didn't want me to. So like when I, you know, I think it kind of surprised some of them, you know, when I made it in the sense of like, wow, this happened, sort of thing. So that was like so cool to see everything kind of come to fruition.
Yeah. Okay, so now if you could go back,
oh god,
in a time machine.
Oh god,
I love these weird questions. Go back in a time machine, and you could go back to younger Brett and give him a piece of advice that you've learned now since you're 31 veteran player. When would you go back, and what would you say to younger Brett?
Oh god. I could go back like
anytime. You could go back last year.
No, I'm saying I could go back 10 different times to younger.
Yeah,
like smarten up, kid.
Smarten up.
That's such a good question. Probably shortly within the time span of when my mom passed.
You said you're 15, right?
Yeah, I just. I was 15 and. It was just like, you're in high school too, you know, it was such a weird time in my life where like, I was just going through a lot and was kind of like, doing stuff I probably shouldn't have been doing and whatever. But it was like definitely just times that were like really tough, you know, when you're that young too. Like, I don't know if I like fully was comprehending it at the time. But just to like, stay positive and like try not to sweat the small stuff too much, because I mean, this sounds so cliche, but life is short and like nobody. I read another one of the quotes I saw the other day was like, nobody makes it out alive. No matter who. So like really try not to sweat the small things too much and try to really enjoy every moment and what you do have, not necessarily like what you want or what you don't have or what other people have. I think you'll just live a more enjoyable life.
Yeah. I think a huge thing for me is with Scarlett, like having a kid. Because like, honestly, like I went through being so self-centered and focused on like my career and my body and like me. And all of a sudden you have a kid and like, you're like literally like, oh, I still care about my career. I still care about everything. I still want to win. I still do all this stuff. Everything is still important. But at the end of the day, I'm like, well, if Scarlett's safe, happy, healthy.
Yeah.
I'm chilling.
And
then you see like other people who aren't so fortunate where their kids have, you know, are in the hospital or do something like that. You're like, if Scarlett's healthy and safe and having fun downstairs right now, I am enjoying life. Like it's all, I'm all good. I don't care what else is happening, anything else. I'm happy.
It like really puts everything in perspective.
Everything in perspective.
And that's what I've heard too. Like having a kid just will change your whole outlook on life.
And like even the like money now too, like I don't buy, like I'm just like all the money is just Fabletics and Scarlett.
Not Lululemon.
No, Fabletics. I cut back. It's Fabletics. You save my money, Fabletics, and then I'll just put it for toys for Scarlett, this for Scarlett, this for Scarlett. And you don't even care. You're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
that's my baby.
It's crazy. But yeah, I like that. Like it is true. You got to put life in perspective, and you know, it is short. And I think too, even having a kid, you start to see like the whole generational way, like, oh, well, I'm not, because before it was just like, it's me, I'm the main character. Of course. I'm the YouTuber, I'm the main character in my life. Yeah. But then all of a sudden you start to, I'm just like one layer in the full generational thing. I'm like, my whole goal now is just for Scarlett to like grow up and be a functioning member of society. Yeah. It's really, really interesting.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's gonna be big. Okay, last question now. Okay. There's a lot of kids that will listen and watch this podcast too, and they want to follow in your shoes and sign MLS, become a pro. What piece of advice for them do you have to basically help them with their careers? And that's it's so broad. But like, what's one big thing that you've learned that you think you might have not known as a kid in terms of just football?
Just football. I mean, again, one thing I always say now is like, if I'm ever overthinking a situation or getting nervous or maybe not playing or showing up to training knowing I'm not starting, things like that, I try to always think back of like, why did I start playing in the first place? Like, why soccer? Why did that stick and it was just because I loved the sport so much. And to try to get back to that mindset of just, why did you start playing? For the love of the sport. And I truly think like when you're in that mindset, you're the best you can possibly be. Like, regardless of whatever else, fitness, anything else. If, at least for me, like if I'm in a mindset of just like the flow state, and like soccer players will know that, the flow state of just enjoying playing, you're going to be the best you can possibly be. And I think so many kids get overwhelmed with like, even when we're talking like decision, like, do I go to this college? Do I go to this college? Do I go to, like, try to put it in perspective and just enjoy playing while you're playing, because it is, it's a short career.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, anything else we didn't cover? Any other?
No, I mean, thanks for having me. This is super cool. Like, first
no
podcast, but like, you're also giving like a voice and a platform for kids to be able to see this stuff, which I think is so cool.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. Was it 2 hours and 10 minutes about?
Wow. So you had another 50 minutes with Ryan.
We were just getting started, man. I think we had just finished his youth career at this point.
You were even on to like, he's like U12 at this point.
I know. I even said like, Ryan, he's like, should we start speeding it up? I'm like, we might.
Yeah.
We might need to.
Yeah. That's too funny.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. This is the Against All Odds podcast. Brett, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.